Chapter 81. With the pause whistle sounded, Sakuragi walked off the stage with a dejected look on his face. Tatsuhiko, remember to avenge me. Sakuragi gave Tatsuhiko an ugly smile. Don't worry, leave those guys to me. Tatsuhiko smiled and patted Sakuragi on the shoulder. You have done a very good job, leave the rest to me. Ayako on the side stood beside Tatsuhiko, showing a satisfied smile to Sakuragi. Take a break, Sakuragi, it was a good game. Coach Anze looked at Sakuragi with a smile. That's right, practice more when you go back. Although Sakuragi was teased and provoked many times by Wu Daiyu, he still controlled his temper very well. Not only that, Sakuragi is still working hard on the field to defend Wu Daiyuha, and this alone is already very good. Hearing Coach Anze's praise, Sakuragi, who was already depressed, showed a complacent look again. Sure enough, I knew that this genius is Shohoku's trump card. Tatsuhiko smiled slightly, waved to the Shohoku crowd, and walked directly onto the stage. At this time, cheers came from the Shohoku auditorium. Come on, Tatsuhiko. Must win. Shohoku's trump card. Take Takashi Tsuhisa for sure. Ayako, Kuwata, and others also cheered for Shohoku. Tatsuhiko walked slowly onto the stage and patted Akaji on the back. Captain, you've worked hard. Let's chase points next. It's finally time for you to play, Tatsuhiko. Akaji also grinned at Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko, it's only just beginning now. No, it's over. When I play, it's over. Tatsuhiko said confidently. Tatsuhiko's voice is very soft, but it makes people feel the firmness and determination in the words. And the other side, Takashi Tsuji's players stared blankly at Tatsuhiko, who made his debut. As soon as Tatsuhiko came on stage, the momentum of the whole Shohoku changed dramatically. If the Shohoku just now is a toothless tiger, although imposing, he has lost his most dangerous weapon. 18 So now Shohoku seems to be an invincible warrior. In front of Shohoku, no one can stand in their way. This guy, it's a little different, Nango Koichiro said with some surprise. Did he have such a strong momentum when he came on stage? On the side, 5 Daiyukazu looked at the imposing Tatsuhiko and said softly, no one can stop Tsuhisa Takashi from entering the national competition. Suddenly, there was deafening cheers from the audience. All female fans of Tatsuhiko stood up, waved their cheer sticks, and shouted in unison. Only love Tatsuhiko. Only love Tatsuhiko. The Shohoku fans also sat up straight at the same time, looking at the court officials with burning eyes. Tatsuhiko is finally on the field. Takashi Tsuji has already lost this game. I still want to see Shohoku's dunks flying into the sky. It's so gorgeous, and Shohoku's offense is much more gorgeous than Tsukutake. The pressure on Tsukutake in this game is not small, and now Shohoku is still behind in the score. It's useless. Mayuradai led by 26 points and tied in 5 minutes. That's only 12 points. For Tatsuhiko, it's just a matter of minutes. Although many rational viewers are still talking about the gap between the two teams and the possible tactics of Takashi Tsuji, but the shouts of Shohoku must win have been drowned out. Tatsuhiko has such a charm. No matter how many points Shohoku trails, when they see Tatsuhiko on the field, these trailing scores will surely be caught up. Ryan and spectators. Wozumi looked at Tatsuhiko, who appeared expectantly. I don't know how many points this guy will score in this game. When Tatsuhiko came on, the game was actually over. Kishino gave Ryanen a look. Listening to the cheers, it's really hard to imagine him as a freshman. I don't know if Tatsuhiko has grown up. Ikegami looked at Tatsuhiko expectantly. Every game, Tatsuhiko brings him something new. Although Shohoku will definitely be Ryanen's opponent in the future, this does not prevent him from liking Tatsuhiko's style of play. This is Tsukutake, the day of the top 8 gods. Hikoichi on the side looked at Tatsuhiko with some doubts and said softly, will he also explode in this game? Sendo shook his head and laughed. There should be no problem, even we lost 10 points in the training match. As soon as these words came out, the faces of everyone in Ryanen became a little ugly. Although Sendo is telling the truth, but the truth is the worst. But it doesn't matter. If it's an official competition, the winner must be Ryanen. Sendo followed up. Ryanen nodded in agreement at the same time. Losing the training match by a wide margin has always been the last thing in Ryanen's mind. At that time, Shohoku was still a weak team in the first round of the county competition. At that time, they thought with confidence. Training must be a one-sided contest. But the reality is that the three-pointer Tatsuhiko not only missed the shot, but directly blasted Ryanen's outside line. His excellent organizational skills were also first revealed at that time. Looking at it again now, Tatsuhiko at that time was like a god descending from the earth, directly leading Shohoku to overthrow Ryanen, the top 4 in the county. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that the current Tatsuhiko is the number 2 high school student in the hearts of Ryanen players. And in Kanan's audience, Shinichi Maki smiled. Finally waiting for him to play, it seems that today's trip was worthwhile. A tall man beside him asked softly, "Is this kid really as strong as you said?" "AMU." Shinichi Maki nodded and looked at the man behind him. "Of course, Takasago, if you listen to the cheers of the audience around you, you will know how strong he is. It's just that the style of play is good. There are thousands of new students every year, but we, Kanan, are the only ones who make it to the end." "Yes?" Seeing Takasago showing a suspicious look, Shunny didn't explain. "Watch the game, Takasago, you'll understand later." The tall man in front of him is Takasago, Kanan's starting center, and one of the 4 major centers in Kanagawa. His personal strength and ability are beyond doubt. And Kanan also relies on Takasago, Shinichi Maki, and Soichiro Jin to rule Kanagawa Prefecture. Shinichi Maki stared at Tatsuhiko, who was standing with Kid Rukawa, a little surprised. He looks about the same height as Kid Rukawa, but the former's muscular lines are more obvious than the latter's. "Tatsuhiko's body has also been trained," Shinichi Maki said softly. "In this way, the physical confrontation will be stronger." Soichiro Jin nodded in agreement. "I feel that Tatsuhiko will have a little change every game, and I don't know if it is my illusion. Normal, this stage is when the growth rate is the fastest." Soichiro Jin understood Chu Mu's words very well. When he just entered high school, he was still a short man similar to Miyagi. At that time, he even doubted whether he could go on the path of playing basketball. But in the 3 years of high school, his height has soared, and he has grown to his current height. Soichiro Jin shook his head, no longer remembering the past days. "Obviously I'm the best rookie in Kanagawa, these guys really are." Kyoto Nobunaga was somewhat displeased with the audience around him. "Isn't this guy a little more handsome than me? Not only is he handsomer than you, he has scored more points than you, he is taller than you, and his style of play is better than yours." Shinichi Maki laughed and said words that pierced Kyoto Nobunaga's heart. "Okay, let's concentrate on watching the game and learn his scoring methods carefully. It will be of great help to you in the future." Shinichi Maki looked at Tatsuhiko with burning eyes. "I'm really looking forward to the next game the other side." Shoyo's auditorium. Fujima looked at Tatsuhiko, who had just appeared, with a cautious look on his face. "This guy, it's not that simple. Is he the super rookie at Shohoku? He looks good, both in height and in shape." Fujima said softly. "Yes, it's this kid. I don't know if Tatsuhiko will be able to show his performance in the previous games against an opponent like Takashi Tsuji." Toru Hanagata straightened his glasses. A glimmer of light flashed through them. "The most important thing is that this kid can not only score points alone, but also assist opponents and contribute assists. Isn't this just like our trump card?" Hasegawa said with some disdain. "Just that kid? His height is at most 185 centimeters. If I guard him, this kid won't even have a chance to shoot. 2 consecutive games with 60 points? Hasegawa, I really wonder if you have watched the game these days." Hanagata said with some dissatisfaction. "What? 2 consecutive 60 games?" Hasegawa apparently didn't pay much attention to Tatsuhiko's performance. He looked at Hanagata in some shock. "This score is a bit too scary. And 17 steals and 16 assists," added Fujima on the sidelines. 2 games? But this statistic sounds scary." Hasegawa nodded. No wonder both Kanan and Ryanen came back to watch Tatsuhiko play. This freshman is truly a monster. "No, it's a game." Hanagata pushed back his glasses, denying Hasegawa's words. 17 steals and 13 assists in the second game, what? Hasegawa stood up abruptly, looking at Tatsuhiko with a bright smile on his face. "Did you really get such data? So I want you to pay more attention to the county competition. Don't you know anything?" Fujima sighed helplessly. "This Tatsuhiko is the best rookie king in Kanagawa this year. The most important thing is..." Hanagata hesitated to speak and did not continue. "Don't worry, this guy will be handed over to me when the time comes." Hasegawa patted his chest confidently. "He is in my hands, no more than 10 points." Fujima and the others were speechless. This guy, Hasegawa, is getting more and more confident. Beginning. Shohoku holds the ball. Miyagi advances with the ball. Tatsuhiko is standing in the middle distance of the bottom corner, looking at Miyagi, who is dribbling forward, planning his next attack strategy in his mind. Nango Koichiro suddenly walked up to Tatsuhiko and said provocatively, "The super rookie is me, Koichiro Nango. Tatsuhiko, I hope you are a formidable opponent, not just thunder and rain." Tatsuhiko frowned impatiently. This guy has been mentally harassing Sakuragi for the first half. Now it's his turn? The weak are not qualified to pursue Haruko. Koichiro Nango was still talking to himself, ignoring Tatsuhiko's increasingly impatient expression. Tatsuhiko was speechless. "It seems that you treat me as a rival in love. Chase after me? Don't I need to chase after me?" 5 generations on the side stood beside Tatsuhiko. "You defend Kid Rukawa. 5 generations and mine Kena exchanged 600 positions." He also wanted to see how powerful this super rookie was. Miyagi stood in front of Natsume Hiroshi, looking left and right, pretending to want to pass the ball. Suddenly, Miyagi's speed increased to the fastest, breaking through Natsume with just one step. Natsume only felt a gust of wind coming from his side. Looking back, Miyagi was already 3 or 4 steps away from him. Why is this guy so fast all of a sudden? Natsume scrambles to catch Miyagi. "Pass the ball." Tatsuhiko stood outside the 3-point line and waved to Miyagi. Miyagi grinned. "What a rush. Catch the ball." Miyagi passed the ball straight to Tatsuhiko. 5 generations immediately stood in front of Tatsuhiko. "Don't try to score easily." This moment, all eyes of the audience were on Tatsuhiko. Will Tatsuhiko choose to pass the ball or to attack? Attack. Tatsuhiko, you are the best. I don't know if the 5th generation can prevent Tatsuhiko. It seems that there are no players who can limit Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko looked at the defending 5 generations in front of him, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. 5th generation captain, if you can guard against it, let's try." Tatsuhiko jumped up with both legs and directly chose to raise his hands and shoot. Too confident. Shoot directly at the 5th generation? This shot will be blocked. Too impulsive. Did you choose to make a 3-pointer just after playing? The audience's comments did not reach Tatsuhiko's ears. Tatsuhiko's body was like a beautiful picture in the air. At this moment, Tatsuhiko perfectly interprets what is called a perfect shooting posture. Wudai was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, Tatsuhiko shot directly, too arrogant. Tatsuhiko doesn't take herself seriously at all. "Boy, look down on people." Wudai let out a roar and jumped up to interfere. But when he jumped up, he realized that Tatsuhiko's jumping height was completely different from his. Even if the hand is stretched, it still cannot meet the conditions for sealing. Wudai was a little shocked and quickly put away his hands. At this time, the developing ball has already been shot. The basketball draws a beautiful parabola in the sky. Shwa. Basketball hits the net. In less than 20 seconds on the field, he hit a 3-pointer against the defense of the 5th generation. Tatsuhiko landed. Looking at the shocked 5th generation, he slowly extended his thumb. Sure enough, he is worthy of being the captain of the 5th generation. He has a lot of experience. If ordinary people come up to defend, it is probably a 3+1. Wu Dai's complexion was ugly. He stared at Tatsuhiko with a calm face. If he continued to shoot just now, it would probably cause a defensive foul. Unknowingly, a sense of danger rose in my heart. This guy is dangerous. Chapter 82. Oh my god. Is this Tatsuhiko's true strength? Did you see it? 5 generations can't prevent him at all. Sure enough, as soon as Tatsuhiko entered the field, the game was over. Is this Shohoku's super rookie Tatsuhiko? Really strong at this time. The audience in the auditorium began to chatter and discuss. As soon as he came on the stage, he hit a 3-pointer against the 5 generations of defense. Not only chased the score to single digits, and it also greatly boosted Shohoku's momentum. Seeing this, Tatsuhiko's female fans stood up excitedly. Start dancing up. Only love Tatsuhiko. Only love Tatsuhiko. The surrounding audience looked at Tatsuhiko's fan area at the same time. It's so powerful. This kid hasn't played a few games yet, and his popularity is no different from that of Kanagawa's star players. Handsome, gorgeous style of play, and so strong. Ryanan's auditorium. Wozumi sat up straight and looked at Tatsuhiko, who was about to return to defense. It seems that the good show is about to begin. Kishino curled his lips. That kid is still as rampant as ever. Could it be the first day you met that kid? Ikegami patted Kishino on the shoulder and gave a smirk. That kid isn't crazy. He really isn't the guy we know. Sendo on the side laughed. Tatsuhiko looks the same no matter who he faces, even if Shinichi Maki defends him. There will be no change. Is this the confidence that belongs to Trump? Hikoichi kept recording in his notebook. Only Tatsuhiko has this kind of confidence. Don't write indiscriminately, match. Wozumi gave Hikoichi a hard look. This kind of confidence is not unique to Tatsuhiko. Yuzu looked meaningfully at Sendo to the side. This guy Sendo, when facing Shinichi Maki, also looks confident. But Tatsuhiko is still right. Kishino said softly. It's the 4th round of the county competition, and his three-pointers are still as accurate as ever. Sendo nodded, and the smile on his face faded. He remembered the scene during the training match. Tatsuhiko's outrageous three-point range is simply impossible to guard against. I don't know if they can withstand this wave of Tatsuhiko's offensive. Wozumi's eyes looked at Takashi Tsuji, who was preparing to attack. The guys in Shohoku are like a three-point team. Ikegami said helplessly. In the 3 rounds, Shohoku ranked first in Kanagawa in the number of three-point shots taken, and the percentage of hits topped the list. This is a team that treats the three-point offense as a regular weapon. And on the other side, Shoyo's seating area. Fujima nodded secretly. The shot was very resolute, without any hesitation. It seems that he is a very good three-point shooter. I didn't expect him to do it directly. Now the 5th generation will lose face. Fujima said softly. Toru Hanagata beside him nodded in agreement. That kid. I'm afraid he will attack like this when facing us. His three-pointers are very confident, and he uses three-pointers to open the situation in almost every game. Hasegawa licked his lips with an eager expression. In this case, let me defend him. I promise he won't get a single point. The defense of the 5th generation is not so bad. Toru Hanagata said helplessly. Don't underestimate Gashidai, Hasegawa. Fujima looked at Hasegawa with some surprise. Unexpectedly, Hasegawa has already transferred the defensive object from Mitsui to Tatsuhiko. Maybe, but his defense is definitely not as good as mine. Hasegawa showed a proud expression. Defensively, Hasegawa is definitely one of the best players in Kanagawa Prefecture. Although Hasegawa's offensive ability is not outstanding, but rely on super single-point defensive ability, he's firmly in jail. Shoyo starter. I hope you will be so confident when the time comes. Toru Hanagata taunts Hasegawa relentlessly. For a player like Tatsuhiko, even Hasegawa cannot be completely locked up. At most, he can only achieve a limit. And in Kanan's audience, Shinichi Maki remained calm. For Tatsuhiko, this kind of goal is still very simple. Nothing to brag about. However, Tatsuhiko's determination and confidence in his shots are beyond the reach of most players. I'm so confident, Shinichi Maki said with some emotion. Soichiro Jin on the side was a little surprised. Tatsuhiko's three-pointer looks more accurate than mine. It's just against weak teams. Kyoto Nobunaga said disdainfully. If he faced us, he would definitely not have such a hit rate. A smile appeared on the corner of Shinichi Maki's mouth. After thinking for a while, his three-point shooting is still a bit behind yours. God. After all, you are our Kanan's marksman. At the same time, Shohoku's seating area. Kogir and others cheered. Nice job, Tatsuhiko. Sure enough, it is our Shohoku's trump card. We just scored 3 points when we first played. Coach Anze looked at Tatsuhiko appreciatively. Do you give the opponent a blow every time you start playing? This can greatly affect the mentality of the opponent's players. Tatsuhiko's three-point shot is so accurate. Ayako said excitedly. Isn't that something we've always known? Kuwata added. That is to say, Tatsuhiko dared to go straight to the fast break three-pointer, and now Hisashi Mitsui and Kid Rukawa are also broken by Tatsuhiko. Kogir sighed. In the first round of the county game, Tatsuhiko hit 3 fast break three-pointers in a row. It scared Akagi enough at that time. Obviously he can go inside and score 2 points steadily. Why must he choose 3 points? Akagi once asked Tatsuhiko this way. 3 points is 1 point more than 2 points. Tatsuhiko, standing in midcourt, throws a random ball, hollow directly into the box. Furthermore, the fast break three-pointer can not only improve the scoring efficiency, but also there is no one to defend. If there is a chance to get a three-pointer, why take 2? Although Tatsuhiko made some sense, Akagi still couldn't accept it. And what if your three-pointer misses? I can't miss my three-pointer. Tatsuhiko caught a pass from Sakuragi and made another midcourt three-pointer. The basketball draws a beautiful arc in the air. Schwa. Hollow into the net. If a three-point shooter has doubts about his shooting, he will never be the best shooter. Tatsuhiko's mouth curled into a slight smile. So I can never make a mistake. As long as you give me a chance, I can definitely hit. Akagi nodded. He had accepted Tatsuhiko's words from the bottom of his heart. For a player as talented as Tatsuhiko, Teaching him how to play basketball was never the right thing to do. Not to mention, Tatsuhiko didn't miss a single fast break three. Hit the basket steadily every time. Kogure took a deep breath, and his mind went back to the playing field. Okay, just leave the rest to Tatsuhiko, Coach Anze said with a smile. There was a glint of light in his glasses. Coach Anze is more and more satisfied with Tatsuhiko's performance. His performance on the pitch is beyond doubt. He can always turn a match into a Shohoku exhibition match, and his off-court performance is undeniable. It looks like this year is the most promising. Coach Anze turned his gaze to Takashi Tsuhisa's rest area. Coach Kazumi's gaze happened to collide with that of Coach Anze. Coach Anze showed a smiling expression and turned to look at the court again. Coach Kazumi Kawasaki sighed slightly. Teacher, have you finally started the real competition? Behind Coach Kawasaki, Jinjuwu's substitute players are still working hard to cheer for Jinjuwu. Coach Kawasaki shook his head and returned to the previous state. Even for this group of children, I absolutely cannot lose. With this in mind, Coach Kawasaki immediately ran to the outside line of the court. Defend well, there is nothing to be afraid of just a first-year freshman. Yes, Takashi Tsuji shouted in unison. The morale that was a bit sluggish was boosted by Coach Kawasaki. On the pitch, Akagi gave Tatsuhiko a thumbs up. Nice job, Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko nodded, alerting the Shohoku players beside him. From now on, we're going to start chasing points, defeat them in one fell swoop, and show them the real Shohoku. Akagi and the others looked at each other and nodded heavily. And Nango Koichiro looked disdainful. What a stinking guy. What's there to be proud of? Didn't he just score one goal? Those who didn't know thought they won the game. Wu Dai glared at Nanxiang and scolded loudly. Shut up. Focus on the game. Looking at the angry expression of the fifth captain, Nanxiang shrank his neck a little nervously. Team leader. Tsukutake advanced with the ball. Natsum dribbles to the top of the arc, trying to break through Miyagi again. But seriously, Miyagi, it's not something he can break through easily. Natsum tried his best to get rid of Miyagi's defense. Without any choice, Natsum passed the ball directly to Kintamine at a 45-degree angle. Kintamine faked a shot to fake Kid Rukawa. However, Kid Rukawa was not moved at all, just staring into Mine Kenta's eyes. Mine Kenta's height is too low. Kid Rukawa defends Kintamine and doesn't even need a jumper. Just reach out to interfere with his shot. Kintamine dribbled the ball continuously under his crotch, trying to break through. But the rhythm of the dribble has already been seen through by Kid Rukawa. Continuous crotch shaking, still unable to get rid of Kid Rukawa's defense. Mine Kenta didn't hesitate for a moment and could only pass the ball to Godai Yukazu in the bottom corner. Tatsuhiko immediately stuck to Goshiro Yukazu's body firmly. At the same time, the breakthrough space on the right-hand side was deliberately released. Hateful. If he breaks directly from Tatsuhiko's right hand, then he must face a big hat. With Tatsuhiko's speed and jumping advantage, he doesn't think he can just shake Tatsuhiko. But there is no room for shots. With Tatsuhiko's close defense, I am afraid that he will be intercepted as soon as he lifts the ball. 5 generations looked around, wanting to pass the ball to reorganize the offense. But Tatsuhiko's little move with his right foot caught his attention. Meaning, Tatsuhiko thought from the beginning that he would pass the ball. And the space on the right is where Tatsuhiko deliberately seduced 5 generations. As long as the 5th generation chooses to pass the ball, Tatsuhiko can rely on the advantages of wingspan and speed to complete the steal directly. Seeing that his passing space was also locked, in desperation, Wudai could only choose to make a three-pointer. Snapped. Tatsuhiko leaps high and directly completes the block. The 5th generation looked dignified. This guy jumped so high. The ball blocked by Tatsuhiko fell to Miyagi. Fast attack. Miyagi shouted and immediately launched a fast break. Kid Rukawa quickly ran towards the basket of Tsukutake, and Kinafong is chasing after him. Appeared. Shohoku's best defensive counterattack. Shohoku's fast break is too fast. Kenta Mine defends alone in the front court. It seems that the score will be further reduced. Miyagi made a fast break to the mid-range and threw the ball to the basket. Kid Rukawa, who has already made a fast break, has been waiting for a long time. Kid Rukawa rose up like a spring, caught the ball with one hand, and scored with a beautiful tomahawk-style dunk. Shohoku scored 2 points again. This is the rhythm of Shohoku. What did Shohoku play before? This kind of fast break lob is right. Shohoku's defensive counterattack is really strong, and the scoring efficiency is too high. The fans of Shohoku stood up excitedly, ahao zhao. and cheered for Shohoku enthusiastically. The other side. Suhisa's players are also feeling the pressure. Since Tatsuhiko came on the field, he chased 5 points in a short time. Their double-digit lead was long gone. Coach Kazumi Kawasaki clapped his hands to attract the attention of Takashi Suhisa. Okay, steady and steady, don't worry, we are still ahead. The 5 generations who were blocked also stood up and boosted the momentum of Takashi Tsuji. Cheer up, who are we? We're Tsuku Take. Takashi Tsujiu has the right to the ball. Natsum took the ball and directly chose Miyagi for singles. Miyagi's defense has been very good. Natsum used his left foot to kill Miyagi's right hand in an instant. Replenish defense. Miyagi yelled and did not chase. With Akagi in the paint, Miyagi doesn't need to fight for space with Akagi in the paint. Don't underestimate people, Akagi shouted angrily, and directly defended himself in front of Natsum. However, Natsum was not the slightest bit nervous. With a shake of his little hand, the basketball passed directly from Akagi's right hand to Nango Koichiro's hand. This is his plan, to use his breakthrough to create space for Nanxiang. Oops, it's too late. Only then did Akagi realize that he had been fooled. Nango Koichiro, who received the pass, took off directly, ready to slam dunk the crowd on the spot. This kind of unguarded ball is not too simple for Nanxiang. Suddenly, a hand firmly pressed on the basketball in Nanxiang's hand. Snapped. The ball in Nanxiang's hand was hit hard and fell to the ground. Tatsuhiko appeared next to Nango with a smug smile. Only by you? It's still far away. Koichiro Nango looked at Tatsuhiko, who blocked him in shock. He was obviously still defending the bottom line for the 5th generation just now. How could he be the king of the restricted area so quickly? Chapter 83. Wu Deyu looked at Tatsuhiko's back in surprise. When did this guy make up the defense? Wow. Football. Tsuku Takashi. Tatsuhiko's recovery speed is too fast. What kind of speed is this? How can the defense be in place so quickly? It seems that Natsum was ready to defend when he broke through. His defensive awareness is a bit too good. Whether it is defense ability or jumping is top-notch. There was a burst of exclamation from the audience. Team Tsukute's face was a bit ugly. He was able to block Nango Koichiro's ball. In the last round, they blocked their trump card, Wu Deyu. Tatsuhiko's defense is a bit beyond their imagination. On the pitch, Akagi clapped his hands in celebration. Nice job, Tatsuhiko. This cover is key. Tatsuhiko touched the tip of his nose. Average. The main reason is that guy is too arrogant. Okay, defend this ball. Akagi roared and stood near the free throw line. Kanan's auditorium. Shinichi Maki sighed softly. Sure enough, you can't underestimate this kid. His defense is better than his offense. Ashan on the side nodded. I didn't even notice him just now, but he has already assisted in the defense so quickly. A blind cat meets a dead mouse. Kyoto Nobunaga didn't believe that this was Tatsuhiko's strength at all, and waved his hands disdainfully. His defense is not as strong as you say, it's pure luck. Shinichi Maki shook his head with a smile. Kyoto Nobunaga is the best freshman in Kanan's class though, but in his opinion, the strength is still inferior to Tatsuhiko. But with good training, he can become a core player of Kanan in the future. But, Shinichi Maki sighed. A little too arrogant. And in Rhiannon's audience, Yuju was a little surprised. This kid's consciousness is getting better and better. Kishino and Ikegami looked at each other and nodded at the same time. The defense is also very good. Before, the single defense ability was relatively good, but I didn't expect that the co-defense is so good now. Sendo on the side smiled. Quite interesting, isn't it? Compared with Rhiannon's relaxed atmosphere, Shoyo's atmosphere is a bit dignified. Fujima stroked his chin, seemingly thinking about something. Hanagata sighed faintly. This kid is not easy. With just 2 rounds of defense, he is definitely at the top. Hasegawa on the side was speechless. A thoughtful look appeared on his face. As for the assisted defense just now, he didn't think he could do it. This kind of defense requires not only speed and body, but also judgment and awareness. And in this aspect, I am not good at it. Let's continue watching the game. Toru Hanagata said softly. His gaze turned to Takashi Tsuhisa, who was about to take the throw-in. Hopefully they can be stronger and let us see more of Shohoku's cards. And in the stadium, Koichiro Nango takes the throw-in. His eyes were burning with anger, and he stared at Tatsuhiko, who was defending the 5th generation. A center was actually blocked by a small forward. He noticed Nanxiang's angry eyes. The corners of Tatsuhiko's mouth curled up in a disdainful smile. Hateful. Nango Koichiro tightly grasped the ball in his hand, and the knuckles of both hands were raised. Hurry up and serve. Wu Deyu angrily reprimanded Nangguang Koichiro. Just because of a block, you are not even ready to serve the ball? Minami Koichiro took a deep breath and passed the ball directly to Wu Yukazu. Wu Deyu held the ball while extending 4 fingers. Takashi Tsujiya's players understood and immediately opened up half the space. Everyone shrank to the side of the bottom line and the middle distance. Want to single me out? Tatsuhiko immediately understood what 5 Generations was thinking, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Then let's try. Tatsuhiko assumed a standard defensive posture, his glasses fixed on Wu Dayuka's legs. I really underestimated you. Wu Deyu protects the ball well and prevents it from being intercepted by Tatsuhiko. The 5th generation captain is polite. Tatsuhiko smiled slightly, although both of them spoke so simply and peacefully. But the atmosphere on the field began to solidify. All eyes are on Tatsuhiko and 5 Generations. Can the 5th generation succeed in singles? Suddenly, Wu Dayu exerted force with his right hand. Passed the basketball from the crotch to the left hand. Use your footsteps. Started thinking about Tatsuhiko's right hand break. Tatsuhiko immediately blocked Wu Yukazu's attacking path. Odai's shoulder hit Tatsuhiko's chest hard. However, Tatsuhiko didn't take a step back. He abruptly withstood Wu Deyu's impact. Seeing that the breakthrough was unsuccessful, Wu Daifei did not hesitate. He immediately changed hands on the crotch, while stepping to the left. Want to break through from the left again. However, the next second, snapped. The sound of palms slapping the basketball was crisp and pleasing to the ears. Tatsuhiko saw the timing and made a successful steal. Good steal. The timing of this tackle is beautiful. There is no problem with defense at all, and Tatsuhiko's body is also very strong. Just now, the 5th generation can't touch him. Tatsuhiko's single defense ability is so good, can't even the 5th generation not break through him? The timing and rhythm are all under his control. There was a heated discussion in the auditorium. Tatsuhiko made the steal and alerted Shohoku immediately. Fast attack. Ayako stood up excitedly from the bench. Fast attack. Fast attack. Everyone in Tsukutake looked ugly and scolded. Hateful. Quickly chased down Tatsuhiko. However, after the steal, Tatsuhiko was extremely fast. In less than 6 seconds, the entire arena had been rushed. Tatsuhiko made a fast break to the basket, leaping high and stretching his body. Grabbing the basketball with his right hand, the whole person is like a full bowstring. Boom! Under everyone's amazed eyes, Tatsuhiko slammed the ball into the basket. The hoop even began to shake his C***K violently under Tatsuhiko's power. My God, what a stretchy tomahawk-style snap. Stunning. What a perfect blend of power and glamour this shot. Tatsuhiko is really the best player in Shohoku. I haven't seen a slam dunk like this in years. Look at the score. Now the score gap is getting smaller and smaller. Takashi Tsuji will lose this game. The auditorium suddenly burst into enthusiastic cheers. Tatsuhiko's amazing slam dunk made almost all the audience firmly remember his name. Kanan's auditorium. Shinichi Maki said with emotion. This kid will be our Kanan's rival in the future. Indeed, both offense and defense are impeccable. Is he really a first-year freshman? Soichiro Jin said in disbelief. This first-year student is indeed extraordinary, Takasago said softly. Although the previous self was completely dismissive of teams like Shohoku, but after seeing Tatsuhiko's performance, I have given up this idea. With the strength of Tatsuhiko, even if Shohoku is a big team, I'm afraid it can lead Shohoku to the semifinals. What's more, the current players are not weak. Whether it's Kid Rukawa or Hisashi Mitsui with Akaji, there is no doubt about the personal abilities of these people. The Shohoku in front of me can indeed shake Kanan's king status. You admitted it too? Takasago? Shinichi Maki smiled. I have a feeling that Shoyo won't be able to get past Shohoku. Tatsuhiko alone is very difficult to deal with, let alone Akaji Kid Rukawa as a helper. Why Soichiro Jin agrees with Shinichi Maki. This Shohoku in front of them, just give them a little more time. Even the King Kanan may not be able to say that they are sure to beat them. Suddenly, a familiar voice came into the ears of Shinichi Maki and others. For this game, study them well. A middle-aged man wearing glasses said softly. Everyone in Kanan turned their heads and said in astonishment, Coach, why are you here? The middle-aged man in front of him is Kanan's coach, the tall head coach. Why can't I come? The tall coach sat next to Shinichi Maki. AMU, study that Tatsuhiko carefully. That kid is the winner of the Shohoku competition. Yes, Kanan shouted in unison. Kyoto Nobunaga on the side showed a dissatisfied expression and complained softly. If it wasn't for Tsuji Takashi being too weak, how could this guy get as much attention as possible? This year's rookie king is me. Ryanan's lounge area. It's different from the Murlocs. Tatsuhiko will show something different every game. It's just that the defensive end is relatively strong. Isn't this something we have always known? Sendo shook his head and sighed. That guy Tatsuhiko, it feels like he can do anything. Even Sendo has to admit Tatsuhiko's strength. This kid is growing up too fast. He's only in the first grade. Ikegami said with some surprise. It is said that I was still a beginner before. Why is it completely different from when I first played basketball? This may be talent. Some people are very good at basketball. Kishino showed a regretful expression. He is also very envious of Tatsuhiko's talent. Strong physical quality, super high ball quotient, soft and comfortable feel. As for myself, I have nothing. This may be the difference between geniuses and ordinary people. Yuju beside him smiled. At least I can suppress him on the rebound, but his rebound is far inferior to mine. Kishino and others cast a positive look. If Yuzu can lock down Akaji at the rim while controlling the rebound, then Ryanan faces Shohoku, and the chances of winning are still great. Compared to Kanan and Ryanan's atmosphere, Shoyo's atmosphere is a bit eerie. Fujima looked serious. He looked at the ready Tatsuhiko without saying a word. There is some caution and thought in the eyes. Tatsuhiko's performance has completely exceeded his imagination, whether it is the timing of steals, or the overall situation, or projection. They are all top-notch existences. If Shohoku wins, what a formidable opponent Shoyo will face. Fujima hesitated to think about it. Now the most important thing is to come up with a way to deal with the Dragon Yan's tactics. As long as Tatsuhiko can be locked down, Shohoku is just a singles team and nothing to be afraid of. Toru Hanagata on the side was equally astonished. Tatsuhiko's performance is definitely a star player. Looking at the entire Kanagawa, there can be a player with the strength of Tatsuhiko. Definitely no more than 5 people. This guy is too strong, Hasegawa said in a daze. I'll try to defend him. Even Hasegawa, Shoyo's strongest defender, was somewhat taken aback by Tatsuhiko's performance. This kind of performance, which can be called a god descending from the earth, even Shinichi Maki may not be able to do it. This Tatsuhiko, who is Shohoku's real trump card, must be completely locked out of Tatsuhiko, Fujima said softly. Except for Tatsuhiko, the rest of Shohoku's players are not that strong. Fujima, you mean, is he even more important than Akaji? Hanagata said with some astonishment. Fujima, who has always been calm, actually regards Tatsuhiko's status as more important than Akaji's. The game is still going on. Takashi Tsujiyu, who was continuously blocked and steals, seemed to be unable to play all of a sudden. They can no longer play a smooth offense. The basket is like adding a cover to them. Many outside shots, but also frequent strikes. But it also has a lot to do with Shohoku's defense. Led by Tatsuhiko, Shohoku adopted an extremely aggressive half-court coverage. It was very difficult for Natsume Hiroshi to even hold the ball to the top of the arc. Although Wu Dayu still maintains a fairly satisfactory offensive efficiency, but the score was inevitably opened quickly. Beep. The first half is over. Both sides rest. The referee's whistle sounded. The first half of the game is finally over. Shohoku managed to overtake the score. The score of the two sides came to 48-30. After Tatsuhiko came on, Sahisa scored just 6 points. Shohoku, on the other hand, shot from inside and outside, blooming more points, and scored 36 points together. Kogure and others cheered loudly. It was a beautiful first half. We will definitely win this game. Tatsuhiko sat on the bench, wiping the sweat off his head with a towel. In the second half, we brought them straight in. Miyagi had a smirk on his face. This game, how many points are you going to score, Tatsuhiko? Minimum 50 points. Tatsuhiko said with a serious gaze. I don't like those guys very much. Akaji on the side nodded and patted Tatsuhiko on the shoulder, but did not speak. Akaji and Tatsuhiko looked at each other and looked at Shoyo in the auditorium. The two understood the meaning of the other's heart at the same time. Tsuketake is no opponent, and the real difficult match is the next one. A match against Shoyo. As for Tsuji Takashi's rest area, it was bleak. Their score was overtaken, and they could not score at all. Tsuketake's morale was so low that no one wanted to speak. Kawasaki looked at Tatsuhiko in the Shohoku rest area, thinking. Tatsuhiko's performance in the first half was perfect. The defensive end has blocked shots many times and contributed many steals. And on the offensive end, Tatsuhiko can not only score by himself, but also create chances for his teammates. Rely on unreasonable three-pointers and fast breaks. He almost overturned Takashi Tsuji's lead by himself. Kazumi Kawasaki sat on a chair and began to meditate. How on earth can Tatsuhiko be restrained? Chapter 84. Intermission. Shohoku seating area. Ayako patted Tatsuhiko's shoulder happily. You did a great job. Not only did you tie the score, but you completely restricted Wu Dayu. Average, Tatsuhiko said, pretending to be modest. After all, that guy's strength is average, so it's not difficult to defend him. Kuwata and others looked at Tatsuhiko enviously. Even though he is only a first-year freshman, he actually has the ability to decide the outcome of a game. Facing a veteran team like Tsuji Takashi, they can also beat them completely helplessly. Tatsuhiko is so strong. Coach Anze is still smiling. Since seeing Tatsuhiko's first intra-team match, he already understood. Tatsuhiko's future is definitely not just a good core player. It's just the unsolvable ultra-long three-pointer and self-confidence. Tatsuhiko's future is infinitely brighter. There was a glint in Coach Anze's glasses. Maybe he can really go to that place, maybe. As expected, it is our trump card. Kuwata gave Tatsuhiko a thumbs up. After Tatsuhiko came on, Tsukute couldn't defend Shohoku's perimeter at all. Mitsui, Tatsuhiko, Kiirukawa scored frequently. It's not just a reason for one more scoring point. What's more, Tatsuhiko completely became Shohoku's engine. His exquisite passing and organizational skills were undoubtedly revealed in the first half. Sakuraji Hanamichi laughed at Tatsuhiko. Okay, I finally took revenge for this genius. Kuwata and others looked at the proud Sakuraji and made up their minds. Not only Tatsuhiko and Kiirukawa, but Sakuraji Hanamichi has also improved a lot. This Shohoku just keeps getting better and better. Several people looked at each other in blank dismay, and at the same time confirmed each other's thoughts. We have to work harder. Although the game entered the intermission, the audience was still discussing in full swing. This is the real Shohoku. Shohoku without Tatsuhiko is really mediocre. Shohoku's style of play is really good, and I am now a Shohoku fan. I told you that the strongest rookie this year is Tatsuhiko from Shohoku. Now you believe it? Did the buddies above say something wrong? I think Tatsuhiko should be the strongest high school student now. It's okay to blow Tatsuhiko. Don't blow it too high. Shoyo Ryanen and Kanan are all there. I have to say that Tatsuhiko's performance after playing is really amazing. Not only perfectly restricted Wu Dayu, but also led Xiangbei to launch wave after wave of attacks. In front of Shohoku, Takashi Tsuji has no power to parry at all. This game, I am afraid that Takashi Tsuji will lose. Kanan's audience. Shinichi Maki smiled. The score hasn't been widened much. Suhisa still has strength, but facing Shohoku, I'm afraid he will only lose. Soichiro Jin nodded and sighed softly. Suhisa Takashi was not very lucky. He actually met Shohoku. Their prefectural competition has ended. Several other people nodded one after another. The high-headed coach didn't say a word, his eyes fixed on Tatsuhiko on the rest area. If Kanan can't figure out a way to restrain Tatsuhiko, in the future, when I meet Shohoku, it must be a tough battle. Ryanen's audience. Yuzumi and the others saw that Shohoku's score was leading, and they didn't feel anything strange. This is the strength that Shohoku should have, just like they predicted at the beginning. When Tatsuhiko came on, if Tsukute didn't come up with a new tactic, it was a failure that awaited them. This kid is really powerful. Yu closed his mouth and showed a smile, looking at Sendo aside. At that time, it will be up to you to block this kid. Sendo stood up abruptly and walked towards the rescue. I'm going to buy a drink and I'll be back later. Seeing the back of Sendo leaving, Wozumi shook his head. Although Sendo always looks very confident, I believe Ryanen will be able to win against Shohoku. But in fact it is not so easy. The strength shown by Tatsuhiko. It is no longer just one or two players who can lock him up. And Shoyo's audience. Fujima sighed slightly. Tatsuhiko is really not to be underestimated. He drove all the rhythm of Shohoku's attack by himself. The key is his scoring ability is also very strong. Toru Hanagata added. Hasegawa has no objection. Their faces were slightly dignified. Hasegawa felt great pressure from Tatsuhiko. And in Tsukute's rest area, Coach Kazumi Kawasaki, who was thinking hard, finally came up with a solution. Play more passes. We have an advantage in terms of speed. We will attack with all our strength in the second half. Just compare with their offense. Yes. Tsukute's players shouted in unison. Come on. For many people, this is the last game of our high school. Let's go. End this game without regret. Coach, Wu Daiyu and his eyes were a little moist. For the past 3 years, he has tried his best every year, hoping to break out of the county competition and enter the national competition. But every time it's a little bit worse. This is his most promising year yet. He doesn't want to lose. This is his last chance. Wow. The second half begins with the whistle of the referee. Both Shohoku and Tsuhisa's players were ready to play. Shohoku holds the ball. Miyagi advances to the front court with the ball. However, it is unexpected. Tsuhisa took a very confusing defensive position. Miyagi, who completely cleared the perimeter, double-teamed Tatsuhiko. For Kid Rukawa and Mitsui, it is a one-man mark, and point guard Natsume Hiroshi is a helper player, making up defenses at any time. As for Akagi under the basket, it was handed over to Koichiro Nango. Nango Koichiro's height, bounce, and speed. It's perfectly possible to single-handedly limit Akagi. Shinichi Maki looked at Tsukute's position with some surprise. This tactic is to kill Shohoku's three-pointer. Miyagi doesn't have the threat from the perimeter and can give up defense completely, while Mitsui, Tatsuhiko, and Kid Rukawa all have threats from the perimeter, so it will be difficult for Shohoku to launch a three-pointer Soichiro Jin analyzed seriously. As a marksman in Kanagawa Prefecture, Kanan naturally has tactics tailored for Soichiro Jin. Soichiro Jin's defensive tactics against Tsuhisa are still very clear. Fujima on the other side was also surprised. It seems that Takashi Tsuji is going to make the final fight. This tactic greatly limits Shohoku's scoring, but it consumes a lot of energy for his own players. Although Shohoku's inside scoring is difficult to limit, this tactic is indeed the best way that can be imagined. Sendo looked curious. Tatsuhiko, what's next for you? On the pitch, Wu Daiyu looked solemnly, staring at Tatsuhiko in front of him. Boy, let me see what else you can do. Tatsuhiko hasn't received the ball yet. Wu Dai and Natsume are like Nugatan, following Tatsuhiko and galloping across the court. Akagi looked anxious, but he couldn't easily get out of the inside line. Miyagi stands at the top of the arc, seeing the rapid passage of time every minute and every second. I was extremely anxious, but there was nothing I could do. I wanted to shoot by myself, but considering my range, I gave up this idea. Tatsuhiko barely ran for an open spot that wasn't even considered open. Miyagi immediately passed the ball into Tatsuhiko's hands. However, it has not had time to make a move. 5 generations, Natsume and Takashi double-teamed Tatsuhiko. 3 people double-team? Half the team is on. Why don't you just defend with 5 people? The audience outside the stadium shouted angrily. Seeing that he was completely surrounded, let alone shooting, there was no room for dribbling. In desperation, Tatsuhiko had to pass the ball back to Miyagi. Without the slightest hesitation, Takashi Tsukudo just missed Miyagi for the shot. However, Miyagi's shooting was still not satisfactory. Rebound! Miyagi yelled, alerting Akagi to grab the rebound. The backboard is mine. Nango Koichiro shouted, and stuck Akagi firmly behind him. The basketball hits the hoop. Nango Koichiro leaped high and grabbed this crucial rebound. Hateful! Akagi cursed softly. Seeing that there is no chance, he can only choose to return to defense. Steady and steady. This is how we play. Let's take this point steadily first. Wu Daiyu dribbled the ball halfway and shouted to the surrounding teammates. He did not rush to attack, but chose to appease the emotions of his teammates. Takashi Tsuhisa's momentum soared. Tsuji Takashi's defensive strategy is good. As long as Tatsuhiko, Kid Rukawa, and Mitsui are limited, Kita's score will be greatly reduced. Sure enough, half of the team is needed. 1 or 2 people can't limit Tatsuhiko's performance at all. The audience outside the stadium was a little surprised. Takashi Tsuhisa's defensive tactics interrupted Shohoku's offense, and it was a very tight defense. There was a gleam in Fujima's eyes. Tsuji Takashi's tactic was not that difficult. They Shoyo can totally do it too. At the same time, Wu Daiyu, who had just passed the halftime dribble, suddenly made a long throw and sent the ball directly to Mine Kenta. Kenta Mine received the ball without hesitation and immediately threw the ball high to the basket, asking for flowers at the same time. Nango Koichiro, who had returned to defense early, leaped high like a tiger out of a cage. A powerful two-handed slam dunk and scored the ball. Takashi Tsuji finally played the cooperation they imagined. It's finally here, Takashi Tsuji's teamwork. I didn't expect them to be so resilient. Their performance in this game is not bad at all. They played very well indeed, and they also played their own rhythm. Takashi Tsuji's coach even stood up from the bench and shouted excitedly towards the field. Just fight it. Keep it up. It seems that Takashi Tsuji has decided to focus on fighting against each other. At this moment, Tatsuhiko suddenly walked up to Miyagi's side and whispered something beside Miyagi. Miyagi showed an incredulous expression. "Are you sure you want this?" Tatsuhiko nodded confidently and looked at Tsukute's people provocatively. "They can't guard me." Miyagi thought for a moment, then nodded, approving of Tatsuhiko's tactics. "Tell me in advance that if you don't enter, I will definitely scold you." Tatsuhiko patted Miyagi on the shoulder. "Don't worry, just trust me." The audience outside the court looked at Tatsuhiko and Miyagi, who were whispering in confusion. I don't know what tactics they are discussing, but seeing the surprised expression on Miyagi's face, Tatsuhiko's tactic should be difficult to execute. Shohoku holds the ball. Miyagi advances with the ball. Tatsuhiko was still marked by two people as usual. Meanwhile, Takashi, defending Mitsui, was also approaching Tatsuhiko. Zero obviously, whenever Tatsuhiko catches the ball, there must be more than one double team. Tatsuhiko stood at the bottom line relaxedly, with a disdainful smile on his face. "Do you think you can keep me? Then you can score a goal." Wu Dai had a fighting spirit on his face. Could it be that three people can't keep you? Even Shinichi Maki can't score crazy points in a three-man double-team situation. Tatsuhiko smiled slightly. Perhaps. As soon as the voice fell, Tatsuhiko suddenly started and rushed straight to the penalty area, where Akagi was. Tatsuhiko dribbles around Akagi. Akagi immediately took a step to the left, blocking the 5 generations who were chasing and defending. Everyone in the audience was a little stunned. What kind of movement method is this? And this is the first time I have seen it. Tatsuhiko's footsteps did not stop. Immediately rushed towards a 45-degree angle. Wu Dayu grabbed Akagi's chest and ran past him. And at the same time, Ryu, defending Mitsui, chose to chase Tatsuhiko, and Natsum followed Tatsuhiko's footsteps closely. But Tatsuhiko's speed is too fast. Still, Tatsuhiko used his speed to find an open spot to catch the ball. There's no difference. It's still 3 people defending. If it's a one-man mark, this off-the-ball running position is really not bad. But there are too many people. The audience outside the stadium commented in surprise. It seems that running through flowers and trees has not achieved any substantial effect. Tatsuhiko held out his hands, motioning for Miyagi to pass. Without hesitation, Miyagi passed the ball directly into Tatsuhiko's hands. It takes too much energy to catch the ball, and it doesn't work at all. Shinichi Maki looked suspiciously at Tatsuhiko, who was about to catch the ball. However, Tatsuhiko, who received the ball, jumped straight up, forming a 45-degree angle with the ground behind his body. It's too difficult. Is this a fadeaway jumper? Fujima stared blankly at Tatsuhiko, who made the shot. This posture is too difficult to shoot. If the goal is not scored, it will hurt morale too much. The three-pointer drew a perfect parabola in the sky. Shwa. The three-pointer hits the net. The audience stared blankly at Tatsuhiko, who fell to the ground. The audience was silent for 5 seconds. Suddenly, deafening cheers resounded through the audience. Miyagi pulled up and fell to the ground. Tatsuhiko. This ball is considered a fairy ball. Of course not. This is strength. Tatsuhiko had a smirk on his face, looking at the 3 of Takashi Tsuji, who were a little astonished. The game is not over yet. After the game, it became Tatsuhiko's performance completely. Tatsuhiko is at his fingertips for catching three-pointers, drifting three-pointers, and even difficult fadeaway three-pointers. Wu Dai has even grabbed Tatsuhiko's arm, trying to disrupt Tatsuhiko's rhythm with a foul. The fouled Tatsuhiko threw it, and the basketball hit the backboard. The basketball spun twice on the rim unwillingly, and finally fell into the net. The cheers of the audience hardly stopped. At this time, everyone in Tsukute's face was ugly. Looking at the scoreboard, they were already more than 50 points behind. But the game still has the last 5 minutes. Chapter 85. This moment, the whole venue suddenly boiled. Shohoku fans stood up spontaneously. Shohoku must win. Shohoku must win. The deafening cheers seemed to break through the ceiling of the venue. Shohoku's seating area. Kogir listened to the shouts from the audience, his face excited. This is their dream scene. In the past, Shohoku has always been a team in the first round of the county competition. They work hard every year, but they always come out early. Over time, Shohoku's old fans no longer persist. The number of people who support Shohoku is also decreasing day by day. However, the current Shohoku is completely different. That is to have the tenacious will to fight repeatedly and fail repeatedly, and to fight repeatedly. They have gone from being a small team to becoming the top 8 in Kanagawa. This is an inspiring story in itself, and their gorgeous fan-attracting style of play has accumulated countless fans for them. Not to mention the win over Ryanen in the training match, which attracted all of Kane and Shoyo's teammates to watch the game. This undoubtedly created more topicality for them. Coach Anze smiled. This situation is also somewhat beyond his expectations. He has not enjoyed such cheers for many years. There was a glint in Coach Anze's glasses. His eyes swept over everyone's face, looking at each of Shohoku's players with satisfaction. Everyone is good. Coach Anze's body, he himself is very clear. This season may be his last as Shohoku's coach. His body was already warning him constantly. Coach Anze had a look of loneliness on his face. Thinking about it is still a bit reconciled. He has not seen these children stand on the final stage of the May 20th stage to receive the honor that belongs to them. Compared to the excitement on Shohoku's side, Team Tsukute's face was full of unwillingness. Their faces are very ugly, and even some senior players have lowered their heads and shed tears. Team Tsukute looked at the score on the field with blank eyes. Is this county contest over? Long muttered to himself in a daze. We still haven't stepped into the national competition. Tsukute and everyone looked at Takashi, who had lost his mind. Their efforts this year have all been in vain. Wu Dai stood on the field, feeling unwilling. Could it be that this year's hard training can only be exchanged for such a result? It's like this every year. Shoyo, Kanen, Ryanen, including now Shohoku. They are complacent challengers every time, but they fall at the door of the semifinals every time. Woody asked himself. His training was no easier than anyone else's, and it could even be said that he tortured himself to death. Falling in the same place every year is something he cannot accept. He can only train himself harder. Over time, he became Tsukute's trump card, Kanagawa's star player, and Tsukute's best player. But the result still hasn't changed a bit. His gaze was on Akaji in the Shohoku rest area. He is not reconciled. In the past, every time he played against Akaji, he always came close. His personal ability is far inferior to Akaji. But Shohoku led by Akaji has never passed the first round of the county competition, and the two sides naturally have no chance to meet. Now that we have finally met, will I still lose to Shohoku led by Akaji? Rebound! Nango Koichiro roared. Woody came to his senses. The rebound was about to fall to his position. He immediately rushed towards the rebound. However, he wasn't the only one keeping his eye on the rebound. Tatsuhiko has been waiting for a long time. He jumped high and grabbed the rebound first. Wu Dai, unable to stop the car, suddenly rushed on top of Tatsuhiko. There was nothing else in his mind but the rebound in his eyes. Facing Tatsuhiko, who had already held the ball in both hands to his chest, he didn't hesitate at all. He directly grabbed the rebound on Tatsuhiko's chest with both hands and dragged the basketball on Tatsuhiko's chest vigorously. Beep! Takashi number 4 fouled for rebounding. The whistle sounded. Woody was dumbfounded. He had already fouled 4 times before, and if the 5th foul left the field, Tsuji Takashi would have no chance at all. Can I count the ball as a foul just now? Wu Dai rushed to the referee's side to reason. He hasn't got a grip on the ball yet. Is that a foul on me? Wu Dai looked at the referee fiercely. Do you think I made a misjudgment? Shohoku number 10 has already hugged the ball to his chest. Isn't it a foul for you to fight for the ball? The referee is not used to Tsuji Takashi's bad temper. The game was full of anger, and the players on both sides kept making small moves. Especially Takashi Tsuhiko's side almost tore off Tatsuhiko's jersey. How dare you threaten the referee now? Out! The referee blew his whistle again and made a gesture to leave the field. Wu Dai was directly sent off by the referee. How did you become a referee? This kind of ball is inherently controversial. Seeing that he was about to be sent off, Wu Dai completely lost his temper. If it weren't for the presence of Takashi Tsuji's players around, I'm afraid Wu Dai will overthrow the referee directly. Akaji looked at the distraught Wu Dai with some sympathy. If the two sides are not opponents, he still hopes that Wu Dai can advance. After all, the two have known each other for many years. Although it is not a team, seeing friends can realize their dreams is also a very good thing in itself. But in the end, there is only one winner in a basketball game. This summer is also Akaji's last summer. He also has a reason why he absolutely cannot lose. The game is over. 140:70 Shohoku bloodbath Takashi Tsuhisa with a 70-point lead. At the end of the game, Tsukute's Wu Dai left the field. The entire Tsuji Takashi has completely lost his fighting spirit, except that Nango Koichiro is still desperately fighting for rebounds and wants to score. The eyes of the remaining few people have completely lost the belief in continuing to fight. Obviously, facing such an opponent, Shohoku does not need the main force to play. A group of substitute players came on the stage and felt the atmosphere of the county hall. That's how the game came to an end. Only the audience is still discussing excitedly. This year Shohoku is too strong. The next game is the Final Four, Shohoku versus Shoyo. You must watch the next game. This year Shohoku is a bit of a champion, and he played really well. If I can win the national championship from the first round of the prefectural competition, I will be a Shohoku fan from now on. Stop dreaming. Do you know how difficult it is? It's hard for them to pass Shoyo. Kanen's auditorium. Shinichi Maki looked at the complacent Shohoku and couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, none of the victories are Shohoku. Shohoku is much stronger than Tsukutake. Soichiro Jin said softly. Especially that Tatsuhiko. I didn't expect to dare to shoot that kind of three-pointer. It's a bit too accurate. Can't you do it too? God. Shinichi Maki asked Soichiro Jin beside him softly. I think you can do that kind of flying back three-pointer. Soichiro Jin pondered for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. It's okay to hit one or two, but to maintain that high percentage, I don't think I can do it at all. Even Ashindu can't do it. Shinichi Maki muttered to himself. Is God's three-pointer far inferior to Tatsuhiko? It's purely the feeling. Kyoto Nobunaga said disdainfully. That guy is just crazy. When he comes, he feels like a cheater. No matter how he shoots, it doesn't matter. It's the same when I get the feel. Shinichi Maki nodded with a smile on his lips. Maybe, but can you shoot a three, Kyoto? Don't underestimate me. Kyoto Nobunaga pursed her lips in displeasure. When we were in middle school, he was our team's trump card, the strongest scorer, and he was able to catch three-pointers. Soichiro Jin on the side also nodded in agreement. It should simply be that the hand feels better. If he really has such an ability to guarantee the hit rate and hit difficult three-pointers, it's a bit too outrageous. Soichiro Jin was also a little unconvinced. Tatsuhiko's three-pointers against three teams in the second half were too difficult. Shinichi Maki smiled and shook his head. It's a pity, Wu Dai, that guy wanted to win so much. He didn't expect to meet Shohoku in the final year of Sien University. Shinichi Maki couldn't help but feel sympathy for Wu Dai. Soichiro Jin sighed. The next game is Shohoku facing Shoyo. I don't know what countermeasure Fujima has against Tatsuhiko. Kyoto Nobunaga has a smirk on his face. I hope Shoyo can severely suppress Shohoku's arrogance. Shinichi Maki waved to the Kanen players behind him. Let's go. Go back and continue the game. No one can stop Kanen's progress. The tall head coach on the side is full of smiles. No matter how strong Shohoku is, Kanen doesn't have to worry about it now. After the match between Shoyo and Shohoku, he will be able to find a way to restrain Tatsuhiko. Shinichi Maki shouted loudly. This year's goal, national championship. Yes. All the Kanen players shouted excitedly and left the county gymnasium. And in the auditorium of Shoyo, Fujima was still sitting in the auditorium. His chin was resting on his hand, and his face was full of sadness. A reminder from the side. Okay, Fujima, the game is over, we should go. Fujima nodded thoughtfully. Obviously, Hanagata's words, he didn't hear Shinjing. Fujima's mind is now full of how to restrain Tatsuhiko. In the second half, Tatsuhiko's playful touch also deeply affected Fujima. That kind of difficult three-pointer abounds. If this is Tatsuhiko's true strength, almost no team in Kanagawa can limit him. The rest of Shoyo is very relaxed. Shohoku just won against Takashi Tsuhisa. If you want to beat us, it's not time yet. Relax, Fujima. Hasegawa on the side said loudly. At that time, Tatsuhiko will be handed over to me, and I guarantee that his score will not exceed 10. Fujima gave Hasegawa a suspicious look. Although Hasegawa's defense is second to none in the entire Kanagawa, but even the three of Tsuhisa Takashi couldn't do it. Hasegawa wanted to do it alone. Is it a bit too exaggerated? Toru Hanagata on the side. He is watching Shohoku most played Shoyo players. The Shohoku game, with and without Tatsuhiko, was two teams. Shohoku without Tatsuhiko. Although almost everyone has strong personal abilities, Miyagi and Akagi are alright, but it's hard for others to work together. However, with Tatsuhiko present, it was completely different. While scoring himself, he can also drive his teammates, perfectly connect Shohoku into a whole. Every game Tatsuhiko is like a commander. Shohoku is invincible under his command. It seems that getting Tatsuhiko is the key to getting it done. Hanagata murmured softly. Fujima stood up, took a meaningful look at Tatsuhiko in the field, and left the arena with everyone in Shoyo and Ryanen's auditorium. Wozumi and others were not surprised that Shohoku was able to defeat Tsuhisa. They come to Shohoku's games just to see how much Tatsuhiko has grown, Yuzumi said with some surprise. Shohoku is a tough opponent now. Not just Tatsuhiko and Kirukawa. Both Akagi Miyagi and Mitsui are playing better and better under Shohoku's system. Even basketball beginners like Sakuragi can find their place in Shohoku. Now Shohoku has become a strong team that cannot be ignored. Let's see how Shoyo restricts Shohoku, said Kishino on the side. Shoyo is also a super strong team. I don't know what they can do. Hikoichi put the notebook in his hand into his backpack and said softly. The match between Shoyo and Shohoku, shall we still come? Captain Wozumi, of course I will. Fish live at 4.1 knot. At that time, we still have to learn about Shoyo's tactics and see how they limit Tatsuhiko. A player like Tatsuhiko is almost limitless. Ikigami added. Let's go too, Shoyo, fight Shohoku, there is a good show to watch. Sendo said with a smile. I secretly thought of it in my heart. Tatsuhiko, how will you behave then? Last year, Ryanen lost to Shoyo and missed the county competition. And in the next game, not only Ryanen will learn to restrict Tatsuhiko's tactics, but Sendo will also learn Tatsuhiko's style of play. After losing the county competition, Sendo hung fish for a long time, and then slowly came out of the feeling of failure. And this year, Sendo doesn't want to lose again. Sendo stood up, straight out of the arena. The Ryanen crowd also left behind Sendo, leaving the county tournament stadium, and in the rest area of Shohoku. Third-year players such as Akagi and Kogir cheered loudly. Finally reached the top 8. The hard work for so long is finally not in vain. Ayako was also cheering and ran to Tatsuhiko's side. Kuwata and other first graders looked at Tatsuhiko and Kirukawa with admiration. It is the first time to participate in the county competition and has already led Shohoku to the top 8 in Kanagawa. In the future, they don't even know what kind of height they can reach. Just as everyone in Shohoku is celebrating. Kazumi Kawasaki came to Coach Anze in person and bowed to thank her. Teacher, congratulations. I hope your team can win the national championship. You are also very nice. Coach Anze said with a smile. After exchanging pleasantries, Coach Anze led the Beijing team out of the basketball hall. Get ready for the match against Shoyo. Chapter 86. Outside the gym, Tatsuhiko followed behind the Shohoku group. The system beeps. Ding. Complete the task. Win against Takashi Tsujiyu and score 50 points. Reward. 5 attribute points, 3 pairs of basketball shoes. The reward has finally arrived. Tatsuhiko was secretly happy. I just don't know the difference between this basketball shoe and ordinary basketball shoes. Then in the system space of the basketball shoes, Tatsuhiko and Shohoku are ready to return to Shohoku. The Shohoku crowd walked to the gate of the prefectural gymnasium. A tall and slender beauty greeted her immediately with a microphone in her hand. She has been waiting here for a long time. Hello, I'm Sanai Furukawa, a reporter for the weekly basketball magazine. Hello. Coach Anze nodded calmly. Everyone in Shohoku behind them secretly rejoiced. It's a reporter again. It must be here to interview Ben Genius. Sakuragi said confidently. By the way, Miyagi mistress, how should I answer when the reporter interviews Ben Genius? Sakuragi asked Miyagi and Mitsui anxiously. Cut. Don't dream. How could the reporter interview you? An exit king. Miyagi looked disgusted. This reporter must have come to interview me. In this game, the 3-pointers were flawless and only missed 2. Mitsui on the side smiled and straightened his collar. He seemed ready to be interviewed. How could it be you? No matter how you think about it, it's me, Miyagi Ryota. Miyagi elbowed Mitsui hard in the waist. It's better not to be interviewed. There are still a lot of children watching. Don't spoil them when the time comes. What does it mean to spoil a child, Miyagi? Please explain it clearly to me. Mitsui glared at Miyagi. Anyway, I am also a core defender of Shohoku, so I am not even worthy of an interview. Otherwise, no matter what, I am more suitable to be interviewed, Miyagi said with a smile. Hearing what the 3 said, Akagi looked disgusted. What 3 hopeless narcissists? Coach Anze, we want to interview a member of Shohoku on 18. Do you think it's okay? Hayakawa Sanai said respectfully. Coach Anze thought for a moment, then nodded with a smile. Interviewing this kind of thing would have greatly increased Shohoku's popularity. After the senior high school students like Akagi graduate, they still need to receive more fresh blood. There is no reason to refuse. Then, under the surprised eyes of everyone, Hayakawa Sanai went straight to Tatsuhiko at the back of the crowd. Hayakawa Sanai put the microphone directly in front of Tatsuhiko. Hello, Tatsuhiko, can you accept our interview? Sakuragi and the others on the side were stunned. Didn't a reporter interview Tatsuhiko last time? Why, just after the game, another reporter came to interview him. Is Tatsuhiko so famous? Mitsui and Miyagi are a little bit envious. Tatsuhiko not only performed very well on the court, but also looks very handsome. He is the kind of boy who looks like the big brother next door. He looks very friendly and is very attractive to girls. It is normal for reporters to keep interviewing him. Kogure next to Tatsuhiko became Tatsuhiko's manager. Seeing that Tatsuhiko hadn't talked to Hayakawa Sanai, he said hastily, "Maybe the game is too tiring, don't mind." Then turned to look at Tatsuhiko. "Are you going to be interviewed? Brother Tatsuhiko, are you too tired? Do you want to take a good rest?" Tatsuhiko shook his head. He was just wondering if he wanted to be interviewed. "I've never been a fan of these things. Moreover, most of these reporters' questions are extremely offensive and troublesome." When Ida Yayoi interviewed him last time, he asked him about his attitude towards Shoyo and Kanan. If it wasn't for his IQ being still online, he wouldn't be in a high mood. If something is said that should not be said, that was definitely an interview accident. Just when he was about to refuse, a system voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Interviewed by the reporter and obtained the data completion card, data improvement card. Host scanners will get more comprehensive data. Information completion card? Tatsuhiko's a little surprised. What is the use of this thing? Tatsuhiko looked at Coach Anze, trying to understand what the coach was thinking. Coach Anze on the side nodded to Tatsuhiko, indicating that he could be interviewed. With the approval of Coach Anze, Tatsuhiko made a decision in an instant. "Hi, I'm Tatsuhiko from Shohoku. Thank you very much for interviewing me." Tatsuhiko smiled brightly. Looking at Tatsuhiko with a handsome smile in front of her, Hayakawa Sanai blushed. Tatsuhiko's appearance, even if he debuted as an idol star in situ, he will not be much different. What a pity. Hayakawa Sanai showed a somewhat regretful expression. Soon, she adjusted her mood. Hayakawa Sanai didn't come here to see how handsome Tatsuhiko really is. "We have some questions we want to ask you. Can we take a step to speak?" Tatsuhiko nodded, waved to everyone in Shohoku, and walked aside with Hayakawa Sanai. Hayakawa Sanai had already prepared the interview questions. "Hello, Tatsuhiko. Thank you very much for accepting our interview. Is there anything you want to say to your fans and friends? Thank you very much for your support. We will contribute more exciting games in the future. I hope you will continue to support us." Tatsuhiko replied calmly. Hayakawa Sanai nodded in satisfaction. She has seen many talented players who became famous at a young age. After many players became famous, they became a little bit smug, and they even talked nonsense when they were interviewed. She is still very satisfied with Tatsuhiko's answer. Not only is there no water leakage, there is no problem, but he also showed his self-confidence. Then the second question. Hayakawa Sanai paused for a while and opened the interview questions she had prepared a long time ago. "Do you have any thoughts on beating a long-established Kanagawa team like Takashi Tsuhisa?" Tatsuhiko smiled and replied politely. "Tsuhisa Takashi is a very strong team. He caused us a lot of trouble in the game. Overall, he is quite happy, and we are one step closer to our goal." "May I ask, by the way, what is your goal?" Hayakawa Sanai pretended to be puzzled and asked Tatsuhiko. "National champion, of course," Tatsuhiko replied decisively. Tatsuhiko is still very confident. Then the third question. When did Tatsuhiko start playing? Hayakawa Sanai continued to ask Tatsuhiko. "I liked basketball very much before and knew it very well, but I didn't start playing until I was in high school," Tatsuhiko said softly. There is no need to hide this question. Almost every Shohoku player knows that Tatsuhiko didn't start basic training until he joined the basketball team. It's just that Tatsuhiko's progress is a little too fast. Shohoku players subconsciously ignore this matter. Hayakawa Sanai looked at Tatsuhiko in front of her in shock. "I just started playing basketball in high school. What kind of talent is this? I'm just a beginner in basketball, but I can play so well in a few months." Hayakawa Sanai took a deep breath and calmed down. The talent of Tatsuhiko is really very good, and he has already reached such a level in just a few months. Tatsuhiko shrugged non-committally. The last question, what do you think about Shohoku's opponent in the next game, Shoyo High School, Tatsuhiko? This is the question that Hayakawa Sanai wants to ask the most. Facing Kanagawa's superpower, Changsheng Shoyo, what is Tatsuhiko, the rookie king of Kanagawa Prefecture, thinking? Tatsuhiko's expression was calm. Nothing changed. No matter who we face, Shohoku will always show determination to win. Our goal has always been only one, and that is the national championship. Although his tone was calm, his words were full of domineering. Confidence was written all over Tatsuhiko's face. No matter who the opponent is, he has the determination to win. Nakagawa-sanai was a little puzzled. He has been a basketball reporter for many years, and he is also aware of Shoyo's strength. Does Shohoku have this strength now? Although I still have doubts about Shohoku's strength. But Hayakawa-sanai still understands the basic qualities of a reporter. Okay, I really feel that Tatsuhiko accepted our interview. I hope you will continue to work hard in the next game and present us with wonderful games one after another. Hayakawa-sanai showed a satisfied smile. Although she didn't prepare too many questions, and many of them were not tricky, but still got a lot of satisfactory answers from Tatsuhiko. You are welcome. Would you mind taking some pictures? The assistant beside Hayakawa-sanai picked up the camera in his hand. The next issue of our magazine is going to use you as the cover. Can. Tatsuhiko nodded and made a few random poses. The assistant looked at the convex Tatsuhiko with satisfaction. Tatsuhiko's appearance and figure are very good. Even if he poses casually, he is very handsome. Perfect. Don't worry about the sales of the next issue of the magazine. The assistant who took the photo thought secretly. Well, I hope to have the opportunity to interview you next time. Hayakawa-sanai said to Tatsuhiko with a smile. Then see you next time. Tatsuhiko smiled and shook his head. After all, Tatsuhiko returned to Shohoku's team. Watching the back of Tatsuhiko leaving, Hayakawa-sanai said softly to the assistant beside her. Have you memorized everything? Write it down. The assistant held a notebook in his hand and kept flipping through the recorded information. I feel that he is more than enough to be a male star. Why does he have to play basketball? Everyone's choice is different. Hayakawa-sanai held the notebook in the assistant's hand. Let's go back, and prepare the contents of the magazine. And at the same time, Tatsuhiko, who returned to the Shohoku team, received a warm welcome from everyone. It would be great if I was the one being interviewed. Sakuragi Hanamichi said softly. You don't even look at your skills, you just want to be interviewed. And when you leave the stage inappropriately, you will consider interviewing Ba. Ayako relentlessly complained about Sakuragi. Miyagi, Mitsui and others were very curious about the content of the interview. Everyone gathered around Tatsuhiko. What did the reporter ask you? It's nothing, just some very common questions. When you perform well, reporters will naturally come to you. Tatsuhiko said slowly with a smile all over his face. Everyone else rolled their eyes. It's all my own, Tatsuhiko. Why are you pretending? That's right, I must perform better in the next game. And let the reporters come to interview me. Forget it, Mitsui. I'll be thankful if you don't hold back. Go away. Miyagi. Coach Anze looked at the laughing Shohoku crowd with a smile. What a group of energetic teenagers. Ding. The task is completed. The data completion card has been obtained. A system beep sounded in Tatsuhiko's mind. This thing, let's try it first. Tatsuhiko's eyes turned to Sakuragi, who was depressed. 350 scanner. Sakuragi Hanamichi height. 188 cm weight. 83 kg physical strength. A speed. A power. A bounce. A favorite food. Ramen and milk skills. Rocket head hammer. Defense with eyes. Gorilla rebound. Headshot slam dunk. Elementary dribble. Humming defense. This thing is really good. Tatsuhiko nodded in satisfaction. You can even know the other party's abilities. But Sakuragi, these are some weird skills. I still can't help but complain. This system is also very human. Tutsao returned to Tutsao. Tatsuhiko will soon return to the topic. Imagine facing future opponents who spent months just learning how to shoot three-pointers. Just when he was about to show off in front of himself, he was perfectly blocked by himself. I guess I'm about to explode. No matter what kind of opponent you face in the future, you can get twice the result with half the effort. Shohoku Basketball Gym. The Shohoku players who returned to the basketball hall lined up in the arena, ready to listen to the guidance of Coach Anze. Akagi stood next to Coach Anze's voice, watching the Shohoku players in front of him with satisfaction. Yes, after winning Takashi Tsuji, the next game is to face Shoyo. Let's make persistent efforts. There was no fear on the faces of the people, but a strong fighting spirit. Coach Anze said with a smile. You have performed very well, and you are becoming more and more like a strong team. Hearing Coach Anze, everyone's faces flushed. Apart from Sakuragi, Anze coaches are rarely deaf. Go back and have a good rest. Come to the arena for normal training tomorrow. After all, Coach Anze waved his hand towards Akagi, indicating that he will organize the next thing. I've worked hard today. Go home and rest first. If you want to stay in training, come to me to get the key. Remember to clean the arena. Akagi simply arranged the next thing. But unexpectedly, almost half of the team chose to continue training, especially Kid Rukawa and Sakuragi Hanamichi. As soon as the queue disbanded, the two of them ran to the hoop with a basketball each. Miyagi, on the other hand, started working on his shot. The fact that the outside line was completely emptied by Tsuji Takashi obviously made him a little upset. If you don't practice your own three-pointers, the sleepy self will obviously become Shohoku's shortcoming. And there is also Tatsuhiko, who has both organizational skills and scoring. Miyagi felt less and less of his presence. If you want to improve yourself, you must practice the three-pointer. And Mitsui found Kogure to start training single skills. Mitsui, who has increasingly transformed into a spot-up shooter, simply won't rest on his laurels. Compared with the diligent training of everyone, Tatsuhiko left the arena early. He needs a good rest. Chapter 87. Back home, Tatsuhiko sat on the big soft bed. Immediately assign attribute points. Now the height has reached 187 centimeters, and the weight has come to 75 kilograms. He stood up, walked to the mirror, and took a rough look. Yes, it looks much stronger now. If you are now competing for strength with Sendo and others, you will definitely not lose much. Subsequently, get the basketball shoes out of the storage space. He frowned, looked up and down, and found nothing special. In the next second, a light curtain appeared in front of him. Note: putting on basketball shoes, the host will have a 5% bounce bonus and a 5% speed bonus, so it will never sprain your feet and keep you warm in summer. Looking at the attribute introduction of the basketball shoes, I was secretly happy. As expected of something rewarded by the system, it's just different. With the blessing of his skills, his bounce and speed are already unstoppable. With the blessing of basketball shoes, it will go to a higher level, which is even more powerful. And the attribute of not spraining his feet is also very critical for a player like Long who focuses on shooting. If you encounter some players who deliberately step on their feet, they can also be effectively avoided. Then put on the basketball shoes to feel it, which perfectly blends with the shape of the feet, and there is a trace of icy feeling inside. After enjoying it, he fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, Tatsuhiko woke up early. Wait for Haruko and Ayako at the intersection. The three of them never missed the morning jog every morning. Haruko looked delighted. Congratulations, Tatsuhiko-san. You have reached the quarterfinals in Kanagawa Prefecture. Don't congratulate me, Haruko. I listened to it all day yesterday, and my ears are about to pop. Tatsuhiko said with a helpless smile. That's right, Haruko. Don't bother with this B****************. Yesterday a reporter from a magazine came to interview him. Ayako on the side pretended to be indignant and said, "It's amazing. There are even reporters interviewing." Haruko's eyes were full of little stars. She really adores Tatsuhiko. Not only does he play basketball well, he is also handsome, and his personality is very humorous. Gentle personality, just like the big brother next door, makes people unconsciously want to rely on. Average. Tatsuhiko rubbed his nose in embarrassment. But speaking of which, was Captain Akagi very peaceful when he returned home yesterday? Didn't he eat a little more banana? The big brother was very happy when he came back yesterday, and he praised you very much. But the family hasn't bought any fruit recently. Does the big brother like bananas more? Haruko looked puzzled. Ayako on the side almost laughed out loud. This guy Tatsuhiko, who usually looks quite serious, can't make such jokes. No, don't buy it, or Captain Akagi will beat me to death. Tatsuhiko hastily waved his hand. Okay, I see. Haruko nodded seriously. Apparently she hadn't figured out what Tatsuhiko meant. But with Tatsuhiko's character, I shouldn't lie to her. Such thoughts flashed through Haruko's mind, and he believed Tatsuhiko very easily. Is your next match going to be Shoyo? Haruko asked Tatsuhiko worriedly. Yeah, what's the matter? Tatsuhiko turned his head, looked at the worried Haruko, and said lightly, "No matter who the opponent is, we can win, don't worry." Haruko said nothing, just looked at Tatsuhiko with admiration. For a long time, what Tatsuhiko said has basically been fulfilled. Since Tatsuhiko says they can win, they will definitely win. Haruko thought secretly. Ayako on the side was a little dissatisfied. I don't know who taught Haruko, but the docile Haruko was very active when getting along with Tatsuhiko. If it wasn't for Haruko and Tatsuhiko not being a couple yet, Ayako even felt a little redundant. Why? Obviously I came first. Whether it is acquaintance or running. Why did it become like this? The three of them ran and chatted one after another. When passing the bridge, Tatsuhiko suddenly slowed down. What's wrong? Tatsuhiko-san. Haruko, who was following Tatsuhiko, accidentally bumped into Tatsuhiko's back. Look. Tatsuhiko gestured with his eyes. Haruko and Ayako followed Tatsuhiko's gaze. But I saw Sakuraji working hard alone on the field for a layup. Go. Let's go and have a look. Tatsuhiko said to the two people behind him, and then walked in the direction of Sakuraji. The three stood outside the field and watched for a while. Sakuraji is learning to shoot. But the shot is either too far and hits the backboard, or it is too short, and it is always three-way. Damn it. Why don't you always make it in? Sakuraji is a little fidgety. Sakuraji really fell in love with basketball, and even took the initiative to learn how to shoot. Ayako said happily. Think about Sakuraji's performance when he first entered the basketball team compared to now. It's completely different. Tatsuhiko sighed softly from the side. Defensive is a little bit, but offensively it is rare. Ding. System task. Training Sakuraji Hanamichi's shooting skills. Reward. A popularity card. Tatsuhiko frowned. Popularity card? Note. The popularity card will display the current popularity value of the host, and 1,000 popularity points per day can get a chance to draw a lottery. This system is really becoming more and more humane. I don't know what's in this lottery. In this case, it is necessary to teach Sakuraji to shoot well. How about I teach Sakuraji how to shoot? Tatsuhiko turned to Ayako and Haruko behind him. Rather than ask for their opinion. Haruko looked delighted. I want to learn too. Shohoku's sharpshooter personally taught? Sakuraji is really lucky. Ayako's beautiful eyes twirled, and she began to tease. Damn it, it's 3 non-stick again. Sakuraji ran to the basket to pick up the ball, and slammed the ball to the ground in frustration. It's annoying. How did that guy Tatsuhiko do it? While he was still complaining, the 3 figures of Tatsuhiko walked in from outside the field. Pass the ball. Tatsuhiko shouted. Sakuraji turned his head and saw Tatsuhiko walking in. Subconsciously threw the ball into Tatsuhiko's hands. Standing near the halfway line, Tatsuhiko raises his hand for a shot. The basketball traced an elegant parabola at his fingertips. Shwa. The basketball hit the net. Nice shot. Haruko applauds Tatsuhiko excitedly. At this time, Sakuraji reacted. He hurried to the side of the 3 of Tatsuhiko. Haruko, Tatsuhiko, Ayako, what's wrong with you? I came here when I saw you practicing shooting. How about it? Do you want to learn it? A smile appeared on Tatsuhiko's face. Really can? Sakuraji squeezed Tatsuhiko's hands tightly. Teach me how to shoot. Tatsuhiko smiled slightly, nodded, ran to the basket to pick up the ball, and began to explain the shooting seriously and in detail for Sakuraji. First of all, there is no fixed posture for shooting. As long as you can score goals, no matter what posture you have, it is a good posture. Tatsuhiko took the ball and stood at a 45-degree angle, holding the basketball in his right hand, and threw it casually, and the basketball passed through the net again. That's right. Sakuraji looked at Tatsuhiko, who shot with one hand in some surprise. He even finds it difficult to shoot mid-range shots, and always throws 3 non-stick shots. And Tatsuhiko stands outside the 3-point line and can score with just a throw. This gap is too big. Me and Mitsui's shooting posture is not suitable for you. The very important reason is that our way of exerting power is different. Tatsuhiko kept shaking his wrist. The 2 of us mainly rely on the shaking of the wrist to exert force, and use the fingertips to adjust the arc of the shot. Tatsuhiko walked over to Sakuraji with the ball. But you are different. Your wrist is too stiff, so it doesn't suit our posture. Sakuraji seemed to understand, imitating Tatsuhiko and shaking his wrist, but found that his wrist was indeed a bit stiff. When shooting, you can't be like Long Yin. What should I do? Sakuraji was a little nervous. Am I not good at shooting the ball at all? Of course not. Tatsuhiko smiled and shook his head. Some things are born. Since your wrist is relatively hard, you can use other methods to remedy it. Tatsuhiko spread 5 fingers of his right hand. Learn to throw the ball with the strength of your fingers, combined with the strength of the shaking of your wrist. Finger. Sakuraji looked at the fingers of his right hand suspiciously. Is this okay too? Haruko on the side also looked puzzled. She has been learning basketball since she was a child, and learning is the most standard shooting posture. This is the first time she has heard of Tatsuhiko's shooting method. Of course. Tatsuhiko said with a confident smile. Boys and girls are different, Haruko. If you shoot like a boy, you won't need any strength at all, will you? It's true that when the distance is long, I can't shoot. Haruko nodded and picked up the basketball in Tatsuhiko's hands. Stand at the free throw line and take the shot. But voted for a 3-pointer. So you need to change the way you exert your strength. No matter how good your posture is, if you don't use strength, it's useless. Tatsuhiko pointed at the thrown ball and handed it to Sakuragi next to him. Try it. Sakuragi nodded, pushing the ball with the power of his wrist and fingers. The strength this time was obviously much stronger than last time. Although the ball didn't go in, the basketball hit the basket. It is indeed much more comfortable than before. Sakuragi shook his fist. He's got a little feel for his shot. That's it. Tatsuhiko nodded. But there are still many problems. Tatsuhiko stood next to Sakuragi. Only use your right hand to shoot. Don't exert force with your left hand. The left hand helps you to fix the direction. Also, the release point should be high, otherwise you will be blocked easily. Tatsuhiko asked Sakuragi to take a shooting posture and adjusted Sakuragi's shooting posture step by step. Is that all right? Sakuragi was a little uncomfortable. Just now he was able to shoot the ball with only the strength of his fingertips and wrist, but after being posed by Tatsuhiko for a long time, he can't shoot again. This is a relatively standard shooting posture, and the specific details can be adjusted according to your preferences. I feel a little uncomfortable, Yin, Sakuragi said with a twist. I'm definitely not used to it. Do you feel that you don't need any strength? Tatsuhiko chuckled softly. Right. I don't know how to shoot a basketball in this position. Sakuragi said helplessly. Bend your knees and use yourself as a spring to let the power go up from your legs and transfer to your wrists. Tatsuhiko patiently guided Sakuragi. Then flick your wrist and swipe the ball with your fingertips to let the ball fly from your fingertips. Sakuragi followed Tatsuhiko's cue to shoot. This time, both strength and direction are much better than before. The fly in the ointment is that Sakuragi still has some strength with his left hand. I've improved a lot, Sakuragi-san. Haruko also saw the difference between the two shots and praised Sakuragi. It's really improved a lot. Tatsuhiko nodded in satisfaction. Sakuragi's basketball talent is really good. Basically, a lot of things can be understood by just talking about it once. Of course, I'm a genius. Sakuragi is a little smug. Practice one-handed shooting first. Tatsuhiko goes to the basket and hands the basketball to Sakuragi. Start from this position, learn the feeling of shooting with your right hand, but don't touch the ball with your left hand. Sakuragi nodded and started shooting around the basket. It's really not difficult to shoot from this position, and Sakuragi can basically guarantee a 100% hit rate. This position generally does not use shooting, it just allows you to learn the feeling of shooting. You can try shooting from the free throw line now. Tatsuhiko nodded in satisfaction. Sakuragi stood at the free throw line with the ball, thinking about the way Tatsuhiko taught him. Jump shot. Although the posture is still a little twisted, but the ball actually went into the net hollow. Sakuragi Hanamichi cheers. Finally scored a goal. Keep going. Then several people continued to train on the field. And outside the basketball court, Kid Rukawa witnessed everything, with a hint of disbelief on his grim expression. It's no wonder that Sakuragi Hanamichi's strength has indeed risen a bit recently, and he has been training all the time. Kid Rukawa walked slowly towards the basketball court. When everyone saw Kid Rukawa, they were a little puzzled. This kid actually came to play? Ayako greeted Haruko politely. Good morning, Ryu, Rukawa-san. Sakuragi Hanamichi had a smirk on his face. Are you jealous of the strength of this genius? So you came here to learn? Kid Rukawa was speechless. Does he have to be jealous of Sakuragi Hanamichi? Tatsuhiko had an idea when he saw Kid Rukawa who was coming. How about a one-on-one? Kid Rukawa looked at Tatsuhiko in surprise. Finally coming? Kid Rukawa was already looking forward to the one-on-one with Tatsuhiko. Subsequently, Tatsuhiko held out his finger and pointed to Sakuragi Hanamichi on the inside lane. One-on-one with him, Kid Rukawa gave Sakuragi Hanamichi a disdainful look. Ayako and Haruko tilted their heads and looked cute, right? Kid Rukawa and Sakuragi Hanamichi one-on-one? But don't wait for them to wonder. The corners of Kid Rukawa's mouth turned up slightly. In that case, let me teach this idiot a lesson. Pick up the ball and stand outside the three-point line. Ready to attack, Tatsuhiko thought secretly. This guy Sakuragi is so proud. He must be suppressed properly, and Kid Rukawa is just right. Kid Rukawa dribbles past Sakuragi Hanamichi for a layup, and Sakuragi Hanamichi gets up to chase. Kid Rukawa made an aerial pick. It still looks the same. There is no difference. Kid Rukawa provoked Sakuragi Hanamichi. Sakuragi was a little mad. What's going on? Didn't my defense improve? How could this happen? Ayako and others laughed. The defense will succeed one day. After the match between the two, Sakuragi lost directly. But the game also put a lot of pressure on Kid Rukawa. After all, Sakuragi's physical fitness and jumping are better than Kid Rukawa. As long as you have some defensive skills, you can use them well. Kid Rukawa sighed softly in his heart. This guy's defensive ability is much better than before. Is this taught by Tatsuhiko? Sensing the gap between the two, Sakuraji Hanamichi clenched his fists unwillingly. The gap won't be that big. You have to work on your shots before the Shoyo game. Reassured by Ayako at all, Sakuraji's defensive performance is remarkable. Facing a one-on-one master like Kid Rukawa is not much less. There are only a few people left on the basketball court for training. Gradually, Sakuraji Hanamichi's near-throw technology is also gradually becoming mature. Chapter 88. Time flies, and the semifinals are coming. County Tournament Stadium. The audience of this game is by no means comparable to the previous games, especially the students who were all in Shoyo cheerleading outfits. It occupies almost half of the arena. The shouts of Shoyo, Shoyo, from the students were like waves, one after another, with one wave higher than the other. The sound of cheering and cheering resounded throughout the arena. Shohoku fans were dumbfounded. Is this Shoyo's cheerleading team? It looks so imposing. As expected, it is a super team in Kanagawa Prefecture, but such a cheerleading team is already much better than Shohoku. Shohoku's game is a bit difficult. That's Shoyo, a super team that almost enters the national competition every year. Shohoku fans were scattered in the auditorium, whispered about the trend of the game. If the last game was, Shohoku fans still have the fantasy of beating Shoyo in their hearts. However, today, seeing the amazing power of Shoyo fans, their illusions have been shattered. That's right, Shohoku is very strong and is the strongest dark polo team this summer. But their competition experience is not at the same level as Shoyo. There may still be a chance when Tatsuhiko, Kid Rukawa, Sakuraji, and these freshmen grow up. But forget it for now. Look, Kanan and Rhiannon are here. Everyone's eyes turn to the entrance of the arena at the same time. Wozumi, wearing a Rhiannon jersey, was at the head of the crowd. Behind him, there are a group of Rhiannon players. Sendo greeted the fans around with a smile on his face. Behind Rhiannon is Kanan's team led by Shinichi Maki and Soichiro Jin. Sendo turned his head to look at Shinichi Maki, who had just entered the arena, with a smile on the corner of his mouth, and gave Shinichi Maki his hand. Shinichi Maki nodded and greeted Wozumi beside him. Although neither side spoke, the atmosphere in the auditorium was somewhat dignified. The smell of gunpowder between the strong teams instantly attracted the attention of many viewers. Rhiannon and Kanan walked towards the auditorium with their respective troops at the same time. Before the game even started, the whole venue was filled with a murderous look. Corner, Kanan's audience. Shinichi Maki and Kanan's senior players look indifferent, and they are not surprised by Shoyo's cheerleaders. During the county competition last year, Shoyo's cheerleading team was almost the same size. But the result is not much difference. It has to be said that Shoyo's cheerleaders are the highest national level among the teams in Kanagawa Prefecture. Kyoto Nobunaga beside 523 was silently speechless. This is the momentum a strong team should have. It was the first time he had seen such a spectacular cheerleader. Kyoto Nobunaga said with a gloating smile. Shohoku is a difficult game. Soichiro Jin smiled slightly. The cheerleaders are nothing. You haven't seen our Kanan cheerleaders, Kyoto. Kyoto Nobunaga nodded. I haven't seen it yet. Shinichi Maki had a contemptuous smile on his lips. Our Kanan's momentum will never lose to any team. And in Rhiannon's audience, you lived with Kishino, covering his ears in some pain, and sighed. Shoyo's cheerleaders are really different, Sendo said with a smile. Shoyo has always been like that. Hikoichi on the side said a little excitedly. As expected of Shoyo, the cheerleaders are stronger than the average team. Yuju was stunned for a moment, then glared. Their Rhiannon cheerleaders are still a bit worse than Shoyo. Hikoichi, isn't that just saying that Rhiannon is an average team? It feels like the game has not even started yet, and Shohoku's momentum has lost a lot, Hikoichi said with some emotion. However, the voice did not fall. The phalanx of the Shoyo cheerleaders rang again in the auditorium. Looking around, all the girls in white half-sleeves and short skirts kept shouting the names of Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa. Impressively, it is the support team of Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa. Only love Tatsuhiko. Only love Tatsuhiko. Love Rukawa. Love Rukawa. Although everyone's names are different, but the sound together is not a small force. Shohoku's momentum is not lost at all. No, it should be said that Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa's momentum is not lost. I'm a bit envious of the two of them. They are only freshmen in the first grade, but they can have so many supports. It's useless. Competitive sports, winners and losers, This game can't be won, no matter how many supporters there are. The audience on the side talked about the discussion. On the sidelines, Haruko and several people from Sakuraji's gang also came to the scene. The surrounding atmosphere also made them very excited. They also involuntarily blended into the atmosphere of the game. Shout out to Shohoku. Mito Yohei was looking for the shadow of Sakuraji all over the field. I don't know what kind of performance that Sakuraji guy will perform after Tatsuhiko's training. It is estimated that I will be sent off again later, and the Exit King will never be absent. Nozomi Takamiya gave a smirk. That's right, that guy Sakuraji, it's even harder to get him to play with peace of mind. Mito Yohei said helplessly. Apparently, he knows more about Sakuraji's character than anyone else in Sakuraji's gang. How can you say that? Haruko yelled at the members of Sakuraji's gang. Now is the time to cheer for Shohoku. How can you say depressing words? Several members of Sakuraji's gang hurriedly took out the cheer sticks they had prepared earlier from their bags and cheered for Shohoku. No wonder the two are brother and sister. Mito Yohei gave Nozomi Takamiya a wink, and Nozomi Takamiya immediately understood. When Haruko criticized the members of Sakuraji's gang just now, it felt like Chiju criticized Sakuraji Hanamichi. In the Shohoku locker room, Tatsuhiko sat in the corner with his eyes closed, recharging his energy. Kuwata and the others sat obediently on the chairs, not daring to make a sound. The faces of several people were very nervous. It's unbelievable that we made it to the semi-finals, Kuwata murmured softly. Turning his head to look at Tatsuhiko, he couldn't help feeling a little emotional. As expected of Tatsuhiko, even against a super team like Shoyo, he is not nervous at all. As for Sakuraji's performance, it was much more normal. He walked up and down anxiously, turning around in circles. Stop spinning. Sakuraji. I'm getting dizzy. Akaji roared. Kid Rukawa beside him muttered. Idiot. Dead fox, what did you just say? Sakuraji rushed in front of Kid Rukawa in an instant and refuted Kid Rukawa loudly. You two, give me a break. Akaji was furious. The game is about to start, and these two people are still as usual. You all don't understand. This bijou is the famous battle of this talented Sakuraji Hanamichi. Sakuraji said proudly. Idiot. Dead fox. Sakuraji and Kid Rukawa started bickering again. Kogure on the side comforted everyone. It's the first time to come to the semi-finals. Everyone is inevitably a little nervous. Akaji, didn't you sleep well last night too? Akaji blushed a little. He also tossed and turned last night, unable to sleep all night. Everyone in Shohoku roared with laughter. It turned out that Captain Akaji, who seemed to be in a stable state, was also very nervous. Mitsui looked at Shohoku with contempt. Isn't it just a shoyo? It's just a semi-final match. Seeing how nervous you guys are, how about it? Akaji and Kogure rolled their eyes. What a pompous guy. Okay, I'm going to the bathroom and I'll be right back. After saying that, Mitsui left the locker room. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. In the end, it was Miyagi who broke the calm. The guy has gone to the bathroom 4 times. It turns out that he said he was not nervous, but he was actually the most nervous person. Everyone in Shohoku teased Mitsui, who left the locker room. It turned out that Mitsui was more nervous than anyone else. Kogure said helplessly. Ayako on the side reminded everyone. Bitch, of course, we're facing Shoyo, last year's seed. After the laughter and squabbling just now, everyone's emotions calmed down. In the bathroom, Mitsui sat on the toilet. He obviously wanted to go to the toilet, but he couldn't pull it out no matter what. Mitsui was restless. This is actually his old problem. Although every time he said that he would not be nervous, in fact, when he was nervous, he always wanted to go to the bathroom. Suddenly, the sound of several people pushing the door came from outside. Mitsui thought it was just someone who came to the toilet, but Mitsui didn't pay much attention. However, their conversation made Sanyong unconsciously K up his ears. Hey, have you guys heard of Hisashi Mitsui? You mean that Shohoku's number 14 player? Yes, that guy. That guy is the MVP of junior high school, a famous marksman in Kanagawa Prefecture. Mitsui nodded in satisfaction. Sure enough, I'm still very famous. Even he is very concerned about other people's eyes. By the way, he will be in position at that time, but you guard him. It's a sign like this. A deep male voice reached Mitsui's ears. It's from Shoyo. Only then did Mitsui react. The few guys who just came in right now are Shoyo players. Listening to them, it seems there are still starters. The deep male voice said loudly. I played against Hisashi Mitsui when I was in middle school, and he was no match at all. His shooting posture is really picturesque. Mitsui was comfortable listening in the toilet. I can't help feeling in my heart. It seems that after many years, someone still remembers him. But after hearing the words, Hisashi Mitsui became more and more unhappy. The man continued. But that's all in the past. Now, when I defend him, I will definitely keep his score within 5 points. Ha ha ha. The others laughed. Then Hisashi Mitsui is for you. Mitsui lifted his pants and stood up abruptly. He pushed open the door, wanting to find a theory with the other party. But several people have come out of the toilet. Mitsui vaguely saw that the number of the man's jersey was 6. Go back to the locker room. Mitsui is still wondering who is the other party? It should be a player in the same class as me. After all, I have played against me before. But Shoyo players, do they have such strong defenders? Unashamedly speaking, he said he could suppress his score to 5 within minutes. It looked like the time was almost up. Ayako cheered everyone up. Everyone. The game is about to start. Everyone work hard to win this game. It is good. Shohoku teammates shouted in unison. Ayako took out the materials she had prepared a long time ago. According to the survey, Shoyo's players are about the same height as Tsuhisa's players, not particularly tall. In this regard, we have an advantage. As soon as Ayako finished speaking, Coach Anze interrupted Ayako's words. Ayako, you are right. The height of Shoyo's official players is indeed not much different from that of Tsuhisa Takashi, but the height of the substitute players is very tall. It's okay. It's just a substitute player. Sakuragi said proudly. Don't worry about it at all. Coach Anze shook his head. The previous substitute player is the main player for this game. It only took a moment for everyone to understand the meaning of Coach Anze's words. According to yesterday's game, Shoyo has adjusted his lineup. If Shoyo is full of long lineups, then many of Shohoku's offensive tactics will be difficult to play. All of a sudden, everyone felt a strong sense of oppression. The atmosphere in the locker room was a little tense. It's not just about being taller. In the end, it was Tatsuhiko who broke the deadlock. He walked up to the crowd and looked around. Don't you think we are weak? It's just that we have an advantage in height, so don't worry about it at all. Akagi on the side also understood what Tatsuhiko meant. Akagi rose to his feet, cheering up North's morale. Our goal is the national championship. How can you be afraid because of Shoyo? Cheer me up. Yes. Shohoku shouted in unison. Shohoku must win. Akagi looked at the Shohoku players around him with satisfaction. There is no longer a look of confusion and anxiety on their faces. On the contrary, there is a strong fighting spirit in their eyes. Whoever it is can't stand in the way of our Shohoku. Akagi stretched out his right hand, and everyone put their hands on Simu's. Shohoku must win. Seeing that everyone has been freed from the previous confusion and anxiety, Coach Anze nodded in satisfaction. Originally, he planned to do this by himself, but he didn't expect Tatsuhiko and Akagi to do it so well. Coach Anze never worried that Shohoku would lose, because the current Shohoku already has the ability to challenge the national championship. As long as they can play the strongest strength, it is not very difficult to defeat Shoyo. Even if there are twists and turns in the middle, Coach Anze has already thought of a solution to the problem. Think about it. Coach Anze's eyes turned to Tatsuhiko and Hisashi Mitsui. The two of them are the winners and losers of the whole game. As long as Tatsuhiko and Mitsui can hit multiple threes, they can definitely pull Shoyo's players out of the paint. And once the Shoyo player is pulled out of the paint, then the advantage of height is not so important. Let's go. Let's play. Coach Anze turned to look at the Shohoku crowd. Yes. Everyone in Shohoku shouted in unison. Akagi and Shohoku walked to the court with their heads held high. Chapter 89. County Competition Stadium. The Shohoku people came to the rest area. Coach Anze arranges the starters. His gaze swept across the crowd in Shohoku and finally settled on Kogure and Miyagi. Kogure, you start. Play point guard, dash. What? Kogure froze. This is against Shoyo, the super team in Kanagawa Prefecture. Did you not let the starter Miyagi play, but play yourself? But accept that I am more accurate than Miyagi in three-pointers. There is no other advantage. Coach. Kogure hesitated to speak. I see, Coach. Miyagi on the side has no complaints. Coach Anze must have his own ideas for this arrangement. As a player, you have to obey the coach's arrangement. Mitsui at shooting guard, Rukawa at small forward, Sakuragi at power forward, Akagi at center. Coach Anze did not pause and quickly arranged for the starting players to play. Listening to Coach Anze's arrangement, everyone was puzzled. Ayako on the side broke the calm. Coach, isn't Tatsuhiko coming? It's understandable that Miyagi won't play, but Tatsuhiko is completely incomprehensible without playing. Coach Anze set up this lineup without Tatsuhiko on the floor. There are no organization players who can send artillery to Rukawa, Mitsui, and Kogure. Coach Anze is still smiling. The second half is the decisive moment, even against Shoyo. I believe you can cooperate very well. Then he turned to look at Sakuragi, who was embarrassed. Sakuragi, I'll leave the rebound to you and Akagi. Sakuragi nodded emphatically. He also knows the importance of this game. Coach Anze turned to look at Tatsuhiko again. Tatsuhiko, take a break off the court and observe Shoyo's style of play. No problem, coach. Tatsuhiko nodded. Both teams start the game. When the audience saw Shohoku's debut, they all looked puzzled. Why is Tatsuhiko not playing yet? This is against Shoyo. Shoyo is completely different from Tsuhiko. If Tatsuhiko doesn't play, I'm afraid the score will be drawn as soon as the game starts. Shoyo doesn't seem to have Fujima on the field either. The aces of both sides don't want to play too early. Fujima is not only Shoyo's trump card, but also Shoyo's coach. Of course, he can't play too early. Kanan's auditorium. Shinichi Maki smiled lightly. Tatsuhiko doesn't play. Is he planning to save his energy and fight Fujima? Soichiro Jin nodded in agreement. It should be like this. In fact, although Shoyo's lineup has many players, its scoring ability is average. That's right, once Shoyo sets up this lineup, he will defend with all his strength. So even if Tatsuhiko doesn't play, the score will not be far away. Takasago on the side added. But the winner of this game is still on those two people. Shinichi Maki looks at Mitsui and Tatsuhiko, who are in the shooting practice. A long lineup like Shoyo, coupled with their excellent defense and defense skills formed by long-term training. Their interior defense is really good. Even if it was me last year, it would take a lot of effort to reach the inside and score points. Fortunately, Ashun, who is outside, feels overwhelming. 4 consecutive three-pointers directly stunned Shoyo. Shoyo was forced to double-team Soichiro Jin. This gave Shinichi Maki a chance to overwhelm the inside line. Unlike Shinichi Maki, Soichiro Jin's gaze was fixed on Mitsui. In this game, we can see how much the once all-powerful boudoir MVP still has. Takasago looked at Akagi and Hanagata. The two are one of the 4 major centers in Kanagawa County, and this is also the first head-on collision between the 4 major centers in Kanagawa County. What kind of sparks can the two erupt? And on the other side, Ryanin's audience. Wozumi looked at Shohoku's starter in surprise. No Tatsuhiko and Miyagi? Let Sakuragi and Kogure take their place? Can this work? Kishino looked puzzled. The facts have already been proven. Shohoku without Tatsuhiko is just a singles team, and it doesn't have the dominance that the top 4 teams should have. Although Shohoku's scoring per game is particularly high, this cannot conceal Shohoku's weak inside offense. Akagi deserves to be one of the 4 major centers in Kanagawa Prefecture. Almost every game can score 30-plus points. But except for Akagi, the total score in the penalty area of the remaining 4 kills does not exceed 50 points. Most of them are simple scores for defensive counterattacks. In the face of a long team like Shoyo, the inside attack will only be more difficult. Shohoku had to rely on their precise three-pointers to open the game. I don't understand Coach Anze's intention. Kishino scratched his head, puzzled. Hikoichi looked excited. Both sides in this game are strong teams. Watch carefully. Sendo is indifferent. Is Tatsuhiko preparing to save his strength and appear on the stage when Shohoku is in crisis, to open up Shohoku's situation in one fell swoop? But how long can Shohoku last? Sendo looked at Fujima, who was sitting on the bench. Once Fujima is on the scene, Shoyo is a whole other team. At that time, can Sakuragi and Kid Rukawa really withstand the pressure? Everyone is looking forward to the start of the game. And on the side of Shoyo, playing players, number 9 Taku Ito point guard, number 6 Hasegawa Kazushi, shooting guard, number 7 Mitsuru Nagano, small forward, number 8 Takano Shoichi, power forward, center Toru Hanagata. Except that point guard Taku Ito is slightly undersized. The players in all remaining positions are above 1.9 meters tall. In terms of height, it has completely suppressed Shohoku. Toru Hanagata looked indifferent. Shohoku, we finally meet. Akagi didn't say anything, just glanced at Fujima, who was sitting on the bench. That's Shoyo's real trump card. It's kind of condescending that Tatsuhiko doesn't play. Hanagata turned to remind Shoyo, everyone. Let Shohoku see our true strength. Everyone in Shoyo nodded contemptuously. Apparently, Shohoku without Tatsuhiko wouldn't even interest Shoyo. At this moment, Shoyo's cheerleaders cheer on. Must win. Shoyo, Shoyo must win. The deafening cheers almost knocked off the ceiling of the county gymnasium. In the audience, Haruko was a little taken aback by Shoyo's aura. She clenched her fists nervously. Big brother must work hard. Shohoku must win. The people in Sakuraji's gang don't feel that nervous. Nozomi Takamiya greeted Sakuraji with a smile. Sakuraji, when are you going to leave? However, Sakuraji did not lose his temper as expected. Instead, he turned his head and glared at Nozomi Takamiya and said in a flat tone, "When the game is over, I want you to look good. Players from both sides are on the field. The game starts now." Following the referee's voice, Shohoku and Shoyo players stepped onto the court and stood where the jump ball should be. Each chooses the players to mark. Mitsui looks at Shoyo's number 6 player. "It's you guy who just said you won't let me score more than 5 points. Hasegawa was a little surprised. How did Mitsui know what he said? But he didn't deny it. He said with some pride, "I was a little humble just now. It should be said that I won't let you get a single point." Mitsui was very angry. It was the first time for me to be looked down upon so blatantly. Kogure, give these pompous guys some awesomeness. Subsequently, Mitsui moved up to Hasegawa. "I'll chop 20 cents off your head." Mitsui gave Hasegawa a cold look and said softly. Kogure on the side looked nervous. Shoyo players are so tall. Kogure just stood in front of the Shoyo players and felt a strong sense of oppression. Kiirukawa also had a dignified expression. Kogure's statement, he does not deny. Whether Kiirukawa is playing small forward or shooting guard, he has rarely encountered a player as tall as Shoyo. The point is, they're not 1 or 2 people tall, but the height of the whole team is very high. This undoubtedly increases the difficulty of breaking through. Sakuraji Hanamichi looked excited. "Don't worry, leave these guys in Shoyo to this genius." Game start. Hanagata and Akagi jump ball. The referee just said that the basketball was thrown into the sky. Akagi immediately jumped up and hit the ball, which was in the hands of Kiirukawa. Seeing that everyone in Shoyo has not yet settled down, Kiirukawa was immediately ready to launch a fast break. However, next second, beep, Xiang jump ball foul. In an instant, the audience was in an uproar. How could Akagi make such a low-level mistake? Is it a misjudgment? Akagi is one of the 4 major centers in Kanagawa Prefecture. It shouldn't be a misjudgment. Just now Akagi did jump the ball early. It's obvious. And in Kanan's audience, Takasago looked at Akagi in surprise. How could Akagi make such a low-level mistake? Ask for flowers. In Takasago's eyes, even the 4 major centers in Kanagawa Prefecture are different. Akagi's biggest feature is his excellent defensive ability and excellent ball quotient. Compared with the other 3, his physical fitness is not very outstanding. But being able to suppress Yuju repeatedly depends on his defense and golf intelligence. But I didn't expect Akagi to make such a mistake. After all, it is the first time to play this kind of game, and it is normal to be a little nervous. Shinichi Maki spoke calmly. He can still understand Akagi's mood very well. After all, it was the first time to reach the top 8 in the county, and they were facing a super team like Shoyo. It's perfectly normal to have ups and downs in your heart. Soichiro Jin on the side shook his head. Not only that, from the beginning of the game, Shohoku's momentum has been suppressed by Shoyo. Shinichi Maki nodded, agreeing with Soichiro Jin. In fact, there is not much difference in strength between the 2 sides in this game. It is even said that Shohoku's offensive ability is stronger than Shoyo, but if Shoyo's momentum rises, this game will be difficult for Shohoku. And in Rhiannon's audience, Yuju had a look of disbelief. What is Akagi doing? Why did he make such a low-level mistake? Yuzumi has known Akagi for many years, and he knows Akagi's strength very well. If it is said that he may sometimes make such low-level mistakes due to nervousness, it is understandable. Then Akagi is the kind of player who can never make a mistake. In Yuju's impression, Akagi is a particularly sensible player. Zero Sendo explained. After all, it's the Final 4, so it's inevitable. Hikoichi, who was holding a notebook, had a dignified expression. Shoyo's momentum is so strong. Even if he is not on the court, he still feels oppressed. Is this the seeded team of Kanagawa Prefecture? Certainly. Kishino on the side nodded. The seeded team in Kanagawa County, Shoyo, is famous for their defense. A team with average strength can't even score more than 50 points under their defense. Is that so? Hikoichi kept recording in his notebook. Senior, do you have any other information? However, Shoyo's offensive ability is average. There are too many tall players, and their defense and counterattack are average. They are suitable for playing positional warfare, relying on Hanagata and Fujima to drill in one by one. Ikegami added. Last year, they felt Shoyo's iron-blooded defense. It was after last year that Yuju began to work hard on free throws. In the last game of the county game, Young played a crucial game against Ryanen. Whoever wins will qualify, and whoever loses will go home. Ryanen and Shoyo almost exerted their full strength, and the two sides had no reservations. And Shoyo's four-man lineup perfectly demonstrated his dominance on the defensive end. Yuju and Sendo are double-teamed once they have the ball. Don't talk about the shot. The ball is very difficult. As long as Ryanen has the idea of entering the inside to score, it is blocked by two people. I have to say that Shoyo's defensive strategy can be said to be perfect. In desperation, Ryanen can only rely on their imprecise three-pointers and mid to long distances to create damage. But this distance is too far for Ryanen. In addition to Sendo's guaranteed hit rate, the rest of Ikegami Kishino and others basically have completely lost their touch. And Yuju, the insider, was directly locked by the two of them. Shoyo would rather pay for the foul than accept the fish living in the paint. And Yuju's free throws never disappoint. The number of missed penalties is more than double the number of goals scored. In the end, Ryanen, who was alone, was able to choose to surrender. After last year's game, Wozumi regarded free throws as his most important training subject, and Ryanen's three-point shooting has also improved a lot. Sadly though, Ryanen doesn't have a single three-point shooter besides Sendo. It might also have something to do with luck. Ikegami's eyes returned to the field. Akagi looked dazed. Ikegami shook his head helplessly. Uzumi stood up suddenly and roared loudly. Akagi, what the hell are you playing? Come on. Do you want to lose? Sendo, who lived next to the fish, showed a refreshing smile. Sure enough, Wozumi is still a loyal fan of Shohoku. However, this is the Big Four match after all. Next, let's see how Akagi, the soul of Shohoku, can boost morale, Sendo said softly. His tension with Shohoku was clearly seen more clearly than the rest of the group. Or Tatsuhiko? Kishino added. Compared with Akagi, Tatsuhiko at this time is more like the soul of Shohoku, Sean. Chapter 90. Shoyo has the ball. Toru Hanagata stands outside the three-point line and lifts the ball over his head. Guys, let them see the true strength of our Shoyo. Toru Hanagata shouted loudly. Shoyo's players shouted in unison. Toru Hanagata threw the ball into the hands of Taku Itu, who was on the sidelines. Taku Itu dribbles, ready to launch Shoyo's first play. Shoyo's long lineup is not particularly good at fast break, but if it's positional warfare, it's really Shoyo's world. Taku Itu played steadily and drove the ball beyond the three-point line. At the top of the arc, Kogure was sweating and unwilling. Damn it, is a point guard this tall? Kogure blocks in front of Taku Itu. Never let him score easily. However, that didn't help Taku Itu. Seeing Kogure stepping forward to defend, the corners of Taku Itu's mouth rose slightly. Kogure, it's nice of you guys to get in here, but we're Shoyo. Taku Itu quickly attacked. He changed the direction of the ball under his crotch, and at the same time pulled his body to his right hand. The shoulders also leaned against Kogure's body at the same time. Kogure, out of position, has nothing to do. He felt his body hit by Taku Itu and lost his defensive position. Can only watch Taku Itu break through himself and go. Hateful. Kogure immediately chased Taku Itu. Then Taku Itu shook his hand, and Chun flew directly to Takano Shozo on the inside. Takano, catch the ball. That fellow Sakuragi Hanamichi is no match for you. Sakuragi gritted her teeth and glared at Shoyo's players. What a bunch of pompous guys. Takano Shoichi catches the ball and sees Sakuragi coming towards him. Without any hesitation, he directly hit the ground with a 200 pass and passed the ball to Toru Hanagata, who was in the penalty area with Akagi. Hanagata catches the ball and prepares to post up Akagi. I won't let you score, Hanagata. Let the horse come here, Akagi said in a deep voice. All eyes in the audience are on Akagi and Hanagata, a flexible center and a rigid center. In this confrontation between two people, who is better? Shohoku was already at a disadvantage in the scrimmage. If Hanagata scores this goal again, Shohoku's morale will be suppressed by Shoyo. It is very likely to continue until the end of the first half. This is something Shohoku cannot accept. Hanagata held the ball with his back and tested Akagi's defensive pressure with his back. Don't try to score easily. Akagi snorted coldly and put more force on Hanagata. Hanagata took 2 steps back with the ball and turned around suddenly. Shoot! Akagi jumps immediately to block Hanagata. However, his hand is getting farther and farther away from Hanagata. Oops. Akagi looked at Hanagata, who was getting further and further away from him. Only this thought flashed in his mind. A fadeaway? Everyone in the audience stared blankly at Hanagata, who made the shot. A big center with a height of 2 meters actually has such shooting skills. Although it is not the first time I have seen it, it still amazes everyone when it is used. Suddenly, there was enthusiastic cheers from the auditorium. Hanagata! 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 Shoyo fans waved their cheer sticks and cheered for Hanagata. Shoyo must win. Shoyo must win. Hanagata's shot not only stabilized the morale of the army, but also dealt a huge blow to Shohoku's momentum. The Shohoku fans bowed their heads in frustration. Akagi's defense is arguably the best in Shohoku. He serves as more than just the backbone of Shohoku. It is also the core of Shohoku's defense. Shohoku's ability to perfectly develop perimeter tactics mainly relies on Akagi's overwhelming dominance at the basket. But the game started less than a minute ago. Akagi not only fouled during scrimmage, but gave up the opportunity to start the attack. It is even lower in the head-to-head confrontation with Hanagata. This game is tough for Shohoku. Why don't you let Tatsuhiko appear on the stage? Shohoku alone can't beat Shoyo. Tatsuhiko is not a savior, let alone Fujima is sitting on the sidelines. Shohoku fans looked pessimistically at the players on the court. Hasegawa stood beside Hanagata and applauded loudly. Beautiful fight, Hanagata. Defend well. The game has just begun. Hanagata remained calm and did not change his expression. And compared to the excited Shoyo players, the Shohoku players looked a little ugly. Especially Akagi, he hangs his head a little downcast. Off the field, Miyagi and the others also looked ugly. What's the matter with the boss? Are you too nervous? Why does it feel like the boss doesn't even jump up? No, it's just that Hanagata's offensive skills were too good. Tatsuhiko shook his head. He couldn't help blocking the captain's jumping space with his body, and he also used the backward technique. Even if Captain Akagi jumps higher, it is difficult to block him. Kuwata et al. Were a little nervous. Is this the strength of Shoyo? It was also the first time for them to compete with a team like Shoyo. They thought that the gap between Shohoku was not too big, but they didn't want to be suppressed just at the beginning. Tatsuhiko looked indifferent. Obviously, what happened just now didn't have any effect on his mood. Okay, don't worry, the game has just begun. Tatsuhiko alerted Shohoku to the crowd, then yelled out onto the court. Captain Akagi, your body is too stiff. Take it easy. In the attack just now, Shohoku's morale has been crushed by Shoyo. At the most critical moment, Tatsuhiko stood up. Coach Anze looked at Tatsuhiko with satisfaction and nodded secretly. Observation is very careful, but also can motivate teammates. In his mind, Tatsuhiko's performance was almost flawless. The best person in all of Shohoku to be the next captain. The game continues. Shohoku holds the ball. Kogure plays with the ball. However, as soon as the dribble passed the half-court, Taku Itu took the lead to mark up. Don't think about the past. Kogure was flustered. The basketball was switching back and forth between his left and right hands, but just can't find a breakthrough space. Kogure has never seen such a ferocious bite defense. Damn it. Kogure gritted his teeth. Seeing that Kogure is about to become a dead ball, Mitsui immediately waved to Kogure. Here. In desperation, Kogure passed the ball directly to Mitsui. Hasegawa has been waiting for a long time. You don't want to get in at all. Hasegawa glared at Mitsui in front of him. Just because you want to defend me? Mitsui said disdainfully. Then you can try it. Confident Mitsui doesn't even bother with feints. Choose a direct three-pointer. This is too difficult. Akagi at the basket looked at Mitsui, who shot directly in surprise. Sure enough, Hasegawa, who was taller and better, just took off lightly. Just block Mitsui's three-pointer directly. I've said it before. I'll defend you, and you don't want to score a single point? Mitsui's face was a little ugly. Damn it, this shot speed is much worse than before. Mitsui looked at Hasegawa's back. Although this guy speaks harshly, he does have some strength. The audience outside the stadium was shocked. Did Mitsui's shot get blocked? Who is that number 6 in Shoyo? The defense is a bit good. It seems that Mitsui is also completely locked by Shoyo. The situation has increasingly turned against Shohoku. Ryanen's audience. Kishino and Ikegami were also surprised. Will Mitsui's three-point shot be blocked too? That guy shoots three-pointers so fast. Yuzu shook his head. Shoyo's Hasegawa obviously studied Mitsui's. This game is hard for Shohoku, Ikegami sighed, with some helplessness in his eyes. It seems that Shohoku is very difficult to cross the level of Shoyo. Not only Akagi, but even Mitsui are locked up. It is too difficult to rely on Kid Rukawa and Long Yuka alone. Hasegawa doesn't show any kindness at all. Kishino said softly. The game is not a play. Of course we have to go all out. Sendo on the side said seriously. But don't you underestimate Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa a little too much? A smile formed on Sendo's mouth. What Akagi and Mitsui can't do doesn't mean Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa can't do it either. Those two guys are no ordinary players. Yuzu nodded, agreeing with Sendo's words. No matter how many points Shohoku is behind, as long as Tatsuhiko is on the stage, he can completely tie. This is what makes this guy Tatsuhiko so good. So there is no need to worry about being behind now. When Fujima and Tatsuhiko come on the stage at the same time, the game has just begun, Sendo said softly, looking into the court with burning eyes. When did Shohoku's counterattack start? And in Kanan's audience, Shinichi Maki looked indifferent. Tatsuhiko has not played yet. It seems that Coach Anze is still confident. Takasago on the side said softly. Sure enough, Shohoku is not yet a strong team. It is still too difficult to face Shoyo. Their journey to the county competition is over here. Soichiro Jin was a little surprised. Mitsui's regression is indeed too much, not only the speed of the shot, but also the height of the bounce. If it was Mitsui in the past, Hasegawa couldn't defend that ball at all. The game has just begun. Shinichi Maki shook his head and said softly, Don't worry, just wait for Shohoku's counterattack. Kyoto Nobunaga on the side is proud. It's useless. Shoyo's Fujima hasn't played yet. It seems that Shohoku's game is coming to an end, Soichiro Jin said with a smile. It is true that if Fujima plays, even if Tatsuhiko is really strong, it will be difficult to face Shoyo's positional battle. Oh, I was so happy for nothing. I was thinking of suppressing Tatsuhiko's prestige, Kyoto Nobunaga said with some regret. Shinichi Maki did not respond. Tatsuhiko's strength is far from what he shows. Shinichi Maki has this feeling in her heart. And this game was the moment when Tatsuhiko broke out in full swing. And in the rest area of Shoyo, the corners of Fujima's mouth turned upward. That's it. Let Shohoku see how good our Shoyo is. His gaze is on Tatsuhiko in the Shohoku rest area. Are you still playing? If you don't play, the game will be over, yes. Shohoku aside, Ayako and the others looked ugly. Shoyo's defensive strength is indeed far beyond their imagination. It wasn't just Kogure and Akagi Mitsui, those three were manned. Especially Kid Rukawa. Basically there are more than two people watching his movements at any time. Except for Sakuragi, the entire team doesn't even have anyone who can hold the ball safely. And Sakuragi's scoring methods are too clumsy, except for the close-up shots that he just learned. Others are invisible. Even if there is a chance to score, it is difficult to get into Shoyo's paint. What's more, there is Toru Hanagata guarding the basket. Miyagi shook his legs a little restlessly. Let me play, coach. Coach Anze rejected Miyagi's words without any hesitation. Trust them, they can do it. Miyagi's gaze turned to Tatsuhiko, who was aside, motioning for Tatsuhiko to say something too. Tatsuhiko thought for a moment and shook his head. Don't worry, Miyagi, when the time comes, we will play together, and Fujima will have to be dealt with by you. It's all suppressed. Are you still thinking about dealing with Fujima? With an ugly smile on Miyagi's face, he said silently in his heart. Don't worry, the game is not over yet, Tatsuhiko added. Seeing that Tatsuhiko had no intention of playing, Miyagi could only sigh helplessly. Now that the coach and Tatsuhiko have full confidence, it will just have to wait a little longer. But he was a little surprised. Tatsuhiko's psychological endurance is indeed very strong, and the situation has reached this situation. Not nervous at all. And the ensuing game completely turned into an exhibition match for Shoyo. Shoyo shot from inside and outside, completely interpreting their style. The cheers from the sidelines were round after round. If it's just offense, it's acceptable to Shohoku fans. But Shoyo's defense is too strong. Shoyo 5.5 as the seeded team of Kanagawa Prefecture. Their defense is definitely their biggest weapon in dominating Kanagawa for many years. Not just man-to-man one-on-one defense. The speed of joint defense and cooperative defense is also very fast. Especially Kid Rukawa and Akagi got the key care of Shoyo. As soon as Kid Rukawa held the ball, he was blocked by two big men. Whether it is a shot or a breakthrough, there is no room. And Akagi is completely locked by Toru Hanagata. Compared to offense, Hanagata's defense is better. If the coverage of Akagi is the entire restricted area, then Hanagata's help defense and complementary defense can definitely cover the middle distance. Although he is not as strong as Akagi, his style of play mostly relies on mid-range jumpers to create damage. However, his defensive area is huge, and he can complete supplementary defense and switch defense at any time. Relying on his soft touch and excellent defense, Hanagata completely controlled the direction of the game. For Shohoku, apart from Akagi scoring 2 points on a layup, he had no achievements. As for Shoyo, they have already scored 13 points. On the pitch, it's Hanagata singles Akagi again. Hanagata hit his trademark fadeaway again. Complete the score. The score was directly stretched to 15-2. Miyagi couldn't sit still. Going on in this form, he hasn't waited for Fujima to play. Shohoku has been completely defeated by Shoyo. Miyagi rushed in front of Coach Anze. "Coach, please." Miyagi bowed his head and begged Coach Anze. Coach Anze thought for a moment and nodded. "Tatsuhiko, Miyagi, you two get ready." Tatsuhiko and Miyagi were immediately overjoyed. It was finally time for them to play. Subsequently, Coach Anze stood up and made a timeout gesture to the referee. Chapter 91. Beep. Shohoku requests a timeout. With the referee's whistle sounded, Shoyo and Shohoku players head to their respective dugouts. Shohoku played really mediocre this half of the quarter. The main reason is that Shoyo is too strong. Look at Mitsui and Kiirukawa. Both of them didn't even have a chance to make a shot. Tatsuhiko should play. If Tatsuhiko doesn't play, there is really no chance for this game. There are no chances now, and Fujima hasn't played yet. The audience chattered about the situation in Shohoku. Shohoku fans feel the deepest. It feels like the Shohoku 5 on the field have used all their strengths, but they just can't score. Instead, Shoyo, although their offense is tepid, they rarely have the kind of fast break scoring opportunities. But it's one ball after another, scoring continuously. It directly opened the score by as much as 13 points. Kanan's audience. Shinichi Maki leaned back on the seat and said nothing. In fact, he didn't pay attention to Shohoku's performance for the entire half of the game. Shohoku without Tatsuhiko on the field is at most the level of a top 8 team and does not need special attention. He pays more attention to Shoyo's performance. From the beginning of the game, Yang firmly suppressed Shohoku's momentum. Whether it's Mitsui or Kiirukawa, Shoyo has already figured out a strategy to limit the two. Only Akagi struggled to score in the crowd. If there is no timeout, Shohoku will be in danger. Soichiro Jin was a little surprised. Mitsui really didn't get any points. Compared with last year, Hasegawa's defense has become much stronger. Akagi is mostly too nervous. Takasago spoke. If Akagi can relax a bit, he won't be suppressed both offensively and defensively. Shinichi Maki nodded approvingly. The 4 major centers in Kanagawa Prefecture each have their own strengths, and Takasago is the most similar type of play to Akagi. But Takasago is more dominant in high post support, and Akagi is much better than Takasago in defense. And Toru Hanagata's offensive ability is unmatched by these two. Even if Hanagata can't be defended offensively, Hanagata can't defend Akagi at all defensively. The attack technique should not be suppressed like this. 18-inch Kyoto Nobunaga beside him grinned. Shohoku originally only had this strength. Their current opponent is Shoyo, not Mayuradai Kakuno. But in Ryanen's auditorium, the atmosphere was much more solemn. Shohoku's game is also ugly. It's completely different from their scrims. Yuzu said anxiously. Especially Akagi. Is it suppressed by Hanagata? Several people in Kashino also complained. If Shohoku plays like this, then we lose to Shohoku in the training match. What will others think of us? Yin, excited face. As expected of Shoyo, you can suppress Xiangbei like this. Shoyo was last year's C team after all, and this year they are obviously stronger. Yuzumi said helplessly. Sendo on the side is smiling all over his face. The timeout was well called, and it looks like Shohoku is going to start fighting back. Counterattack? Ikegami looked at Sendo suspiciously. Facing Shoyo's long lineup, even Tatsuhiko can't do anything. No, you're wrong. Sendo shook his head, looking at Fujima on Shoyo's bench. Even with Shoyo's long lineup, there is no way to face Tatsuhiko. A player like Tatsuhiko is not at all restricted in the same way as Akagi Kiirukawa. Is Senpai so confident in Tatsuhiko? Hikoichi looked at Sendo curiously. Sendo shook his head and smiled brightly again. However, if Shohoku is like the previous games, it will definitely suffer. I am very sure of that. Yuzu agrees with Sendo. Shoyo is not a team like Tsukutake Mayuradai at all. It's not just that each player's single defense and cooperative defense capabilities are outstanding. The strongest thing about Shoyo is that every player does his best. For example, For a player like Hasegawa, his offense can be described as nothing at all. But his supplementary defense and defensibility are top-notch, and his single defense ability is also very good. Although this way of development will limit the future of this player. But in high school, this training method is very immediate. Hanagata, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Hanagata's offensive ability is very good, especially the mid-range and basket skills. But his single defense is his shortcoming. Hanagata's defensive coverage is large, but it is very difficult to defend one-on-one, especially in the matchup of the four major centers. If there is no defense from teammates, most of the results of inside matchups are mutual explosions. Listen to the cheers and cheers from the Shoyo audience. Yuzumi sighed softly. Hopefully Shohoku can step over from here. Shoyo's seating area. Fujima looked at the Shoyo players in front of him with a big smile on his face. Played very well. Keep it up and win this game. Yes. The Shoyo players shouted in unison. Fujima nodded in satisfaction, and his eyes looked at Tatsuhiko and Miyagi who were warming up. Later, Shohoku's ace is about to appear, changing the defensive tactics. Hanagata nodded, encouraging everyone around him. We are going to enter the national competition. We can't waste time here with Shohoku. Everyone in Shoyo was excited again. Hasegawa on the side said confidently, Don't worry, Mitsui will be handed over to me. He won't score a single point in this game, and Tatsuhiko will be handed over to you. That's right, just keep fighting like this, destroying Shohoku's psychological defense step by step. Fujima's face was full of smiles, thinking secretly in his heart, Tatsuhiko, I hope you will like the gift I specially prepared for you. On the Shohoku side, the atmosphere was unusually heavy. Haruko looked at the Shohoku players worriedly, but silently cheered for Shohoku in his heart. Come on, big brother. Everyone in Sakuraji's gang is a bit unbelievable. Their focus is not on the scores of the two teams at all. Everyone in Sakuraji's gang is just curious about Sakuraji. His defense is getting better and better, and he hasn't fouled for so long. Also grabbed several rebounds. The four of them glanced at each other, and an idea flashed through their minds at the same time. Sakuraji is becoming more and more of an athlete. In the rest area of Shohoku, the atmosphere is a bit dignified. The Shohoku players who had just left the field sat on the bench without saying a word. Ayako's face is a little nervous, and now Shohoku's has fallen behind by a large score. But she still forced a smile to comfort everyone. It's okay. You all worked hard. Tatsuhiko and Miyagi will be playing soon. Kogure nodded and let out a long sigh of relief. Although he didn't play for a long time, he felt extremely hard. Shoyo's biting defense from the outside made him miserable. Not to mention breaking through and attacking, he feels that it is difficult to safely dribble across the half. Mitsui's expression on the side was ugly. In the few minutes just now, he made 4 3-pointers, none of which were hit, and even got 2 blocks. Not only did he lose his usual accuracy, but he also had a big hole in his defense. Hasegawa even hit an unmarked corner 3. Mitsui wiped the sweat from his forehead and said in his heart, How is it possible, Hasegawa? I have never heard of this name before. How could he be defeated by such a small character? Take it easy, Mitsui. That Hasegawa did defend well. Tatsuhiko saw Mitsui's nervousness and comforted him softly. But that guy is easy to deal with, and when the game starts, you run around the baseline. Tatsuhiko began to teach Mitsui the skills of going around the defense on the spot. Does this really work? Mitsui looked suspicious. The way Tatsuhiko circled the defense was simply unheard of for him. How can there be players who go around the defense and go out of bounds? What else uses Akaji in the pick and roll and Kid Rukawa in the pick and roll? Isn't the pick and roll teammate coming to me? Why is it that I ran to my teammate and asked him to help me block the defender? Wouldn't that be a foul? Move the pick and roll? Don't worry. Think about how I got around the defense last game. Tatsuhiko gave Mitsui a thumbs up. Mitsui recalled the scene where Tatsuhiko was double-teamed by 3 players in the last game. Tatsuhiko basically catches and shoots, with no aim at all. More importantly, it is the method of movement used. If Tatsuhiko waits there, basically as soon as the ball reaches Tatsuhiko's hands, the double team will come. But once Tatsuhiko was running, the whole field flew. Not only can it draw the attention of many defensive players, but also create more opportunities for teammates. More importantly, the 3-person double team that was originally intended to be formed was broken without attacking. You know, In Yan's pace is not slow at all. Mitsui nodded. I see. I'll try this in a moment. As long as you can run out of the open space, my ball will definitely fit into your hands, and then you can just let go of the shot. Tatsuhiko said confidently to Mitsui. He turned his head to look at Akaji who was beside him. Captain, do you feel that the offensive pressure is very high? Akagi cast a glance at Tatsuhiko. If you have a tactic, tell it. Tatsuhiko nodded with a smile. When the game starts, you go straight to the middle distance. Tatsuhiko pointed toward the free throw line. You can just stand there. Shooting from that distance shouldn't be a big problem, Captain. Certainly. Akagi nodded. Although he didn't understand the intention of Tatsuhiko's tactics, he agreed to Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko has all kinds of unconstrained ideas in every game. And many of these ideas have been proven, which is very good. Tatsuhiko patted Kid Rukawa on the shoulder again. Wait a while. As long as you get the ball, go inside and kill. Inside. Kid Rukawa was a little puzzled. They have too many people inside. It's hard to attack. It's difficult for others to attack. Not you, Kid Rukawa. The two of us will attack the inside line. Don't think about scoring or not. Just hit that Hanagata's body, and when we hit it, we will lie on the ground. Tatsuhiko had already thought of a way to deal with Hanagata. Shoyo's tough defensive style is at the boundary of whether it can be blown or not. In the past few minutes of the game, the defensive actions of the Shoyo players were still relatively large. This is Shoyo's defensive style, and it will be difficult to change for a while. In this case, it is better to turn the originally unfavorable things into something beneficial to oneself. If you like tough defense, then take the initiative to hit you. Even if you can't make a foul, let you defend next time. If you like double teaming, then run to your death. The reason why Shoyo is exceptionally good at 430 positional battles is that their long man lineup has excellent defense, but their pace is too slow. Shoyo's several successful defensive blocks could not be quickly converted into fast break advantages. This is indeed the case. That is, it has the strong defense of positional warfare and the speed of fast attack. Although basketball is a game for elders, it is not just a game for elders. Fast players like Miyagi, Tatsuhiko, and Kid Rukawa can completely exhaust Shoyo through running positions and fast breaks. After listening to Tatsuhiko's words, everyone suddenly realized. Indeed so. Although Shoyo is a super strong team, it doesn't mean they are proficient in everything. Although there is still a gap between Shohoku and Shoyo in strength, it does not mean that they have no chance at all. The most important thing is to play what you are best at and control the rhythm of the game in your own hands. This is what Tatsuhiko wants to express. Tatsuhiko looked at Shoyo's resting area. It happened to meet Fujima's gaze. Tatsuhiko smiled slightly, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Let me see what strength Shoyo has. Coach Anze looked at Tatsuhiko mobilized before the battle with satisfaction. With Tatsuhiko's golf quotient, even if he is not a superstar in the future, he is more than enough to be the head coach of a team. A beginner who just touched basketball. Not only has he made rapid progress, but more importantly, he has a strong sense of space and direction in his mind. And this is precisely the basis of a team's tactics. Come on, just follow what Tatsuhiko said. I believe in you. This is also the only way for you to grow. Coach Anze nodded and looked at the Shohoku players with a big smile. Kogure and Sakuragi take a break. Miyagi and Tatsuhiko come on. Coach Anze arranged the players on and off the field. Sakuragi stood up abruptly, ran to Coach Anze's side, and patted Coach Anze's chin with his hand. Father, look at how good my defense was just now. Why did I end up? It's that damn fox who wants to end up. Shut up. Sakuragi. Captain Akagi punched Sakuragi hard on the head. How many times have I told you to respect Coach Anze? Gorilla. Then you end up. Sakuragi said indignantly. After finally becoming the team's starter, Sakuragi didn't want to end so early. Hole. The furious Akagi punched again, and Sakuragi directly covered his head and crouched on the ground. Everyone around laughed. It seems that the pressure of the score just now is gone. Pause time ends. Tatsuhiko turned to look at Shohoku's group. Let's go. It's time for us to play. Walk. Everyone in Shohoku waved their fists and lost in Zai. Chapter 92. Finally waiting for Tatsuhiko to play. Hurry up and play. The game will be over if you don't play. Also, Shohoku's number 7 is not tall, but his speed is super fast. I don't know how Tatsuhiko and that number 7 will face this situation. See Shohoku's personnel play. The auditorium burst into bursts of cheers. Shohoku fans are getting excited too. Tatsuhiko is such a magical player. No matter how many points Shohoku trails, as long as Tatsuhiko is on stage, it makes people feel confident. The current Shohoku is the unrivaled super dark horse in that county. Tatsuhiko and Kid Rukawa's cheerleaders cheered nonstop. The people who watched the previous games were too dull. Shohoku's offense has been blocked again and again, and the defense has been losing. This put Shohoku almost on the edge of a precipice, including Shohoku fans. Everyone is waiting for a change. Haruko sat in the audience with stars in his eyes. Is Tatsuhiko going to appear? Haruko stood up abruptly, like Tatsuhiko's support team, cheering for Tatsuhiko. Is this still Haruko? Mito Yohei touched the back of his head and asked Sakuraji's gang next to him with some doubts. When did Haruko become so bold? You ask me? Nozomi Takamiya gave Mito Yohei a blank look. I haven't even held a girl's hand. You ask me? 2. Mito Yohei nodded and looked at Sakuraji on the bench. But don't tell me, Sakuraji is getting better and better. No Machuchira sighed. The era of Exit Kings is over. Exit King or something. Mito Yohei held his forehead helplessly. It's better not to let Sakuraji hear such words. My forehead started to hurt again. Kanan's auditorium. Shinichi Maki stared at Tatsuhiko, who appeared on stage. Is Coach Anze finally unable to sit still? Tatsuhiko is finally on the stage, and it seems that Shohoku is also feeling the crisis. Takasago on the side said softly. But isn't it a bit late now? Shoyo's momentum has fully recovered. It's not too late at all, or just right. Shinichi Maki smiled and gave Tatsuhiko a look in the direction of the cheerleaders. This kind of scenario where the Jedi counterattacks and the hero debuts is the most morale-boosting. Soichiro Jin nodded. Indeed, if Tatsuhiko was suppressed by Shoyo as soon as he entered the field, it is estimated that Shohoku fans would not have such great enthusiasm. However, it is still much earlier than before. The game started less than 4 minutes ago, and Bei was exempted from Tatsuhiko. Takasago added. Kyoto Nobunaga has a smirk on his face. Let Tatsuhiko go and be suppressed by Shoyo. Let him know what is the top 4 team in Kanagawa Prefecture. Not a cat or a dog like Tsukutake Mayuradai can come to touch porcelain. But Shinichi Maki hesitated to speak. He has a feeling. If Tatsuhiko appeared, the suppressed person might not be Shohoku, but Shoyo. Although Shinichi Maki is not confident in his own thinking, it's unbelievable that a freshman can overwhelm Shoyo. But deep down, he still has this idea. This guy, Tatsuhiko, is simply a bottomless pit, and he can't see the limit of this kid at all. And in Rhiannon's audience, Yuju let out a sigh of relief. Shoyo finally got the kid Tatsuhiko out. The next game will be great. Kishino and the others agree. But Shoyo is not an ordinary team. Even if Tatsuhiko plays, it won't make any big changes. Why no, you are wrong. Sendo smiled and shook his head. Tatsuhiko is not an ordinary player. If Shoyo doesn't design specific tactics to encircle him, he alone has the ability to overthrow Shoyo. Senior Sendo, don't you expect too much from Tatsuhiko? Hikoichi on the side was a little dumbfounded. Didn't expect Tatsuhiko to be so strong in Sendo's eyes? Of course it is. Don't you remember the scores of the previous games? Sendo nodded. Being able to score more than 50 points in a row in the county competition has proved that Long Yu is not just an organizational player. That's right. This guy's three-pointer is the biggest weapon. Yuzu agreed with Sendo's idea. This guy is a player who feels more and more shooting. If you make this guy crazy, he can throw you any three-pointer. This alone makes it difficult for Shoyo to defend. That's it. Sendo nodded, a faint smile on his lips. It depends on how Shoyo restricts Tatsuhiko. If he doesn't restrain him well, then this game will be difficult for Shoyo. However, Fujima doesn't seem to take Tatsuhiko seriously. See, Senior, Fujima is still sitting on the bench. Hikoichi sketched Fujima's location with his notebook. Fujima is still sitting on the bench and has no plans to play. Fujima won't be long. Sendo said confidently. They are both strong teams. Hikoichi, please record. These two teams are our opponents. Yuzumi beside him said softly. Yes, Captain. Hikoichi excitedly picked up his notebook while muttering to himself. They are all strong teams. Observe carefully. Record them. In the rest area of Shoyo, the atmosphere is much quieter. Fujima simply arranged the tactics without saying anything. His eyes were fixed on Tatsuhiko, who was getting ready to play. The scene of the game a few days ago is still vivid. Just moments before Tatsuhiko started warming up, he was also ready to play. But after taking a look at the score, Fujima dropped the idea. The score is still leading by 13 points, so there is no need to worry. Now watch Tatsuhiko play off the court. With that in mind, Fujima didn't choose to warm up. Instead, he continued to serve as Shoyo's tactical brain and coach on the bench. Super Rookie, let's see how powerful it is. Fujima looked indifferent and turned to look at Toru Hanagata, who was about to play. Hanagata, keep the tempo steady. Hasegawa, Keep marking Mitsui. He's the only one who can kill us. Yes. The Shoyo teammates shouted in unison. Beep. The timeout is over. The game continues. With the whistle of the referee, the game continued. Shohoku holds the ball. Akagi sent the ball straight into Miyagi's hands. Miyagi dribbles forward and looks to Taku Itu. Wait a minute. Will they start to surround me at halftime? Sure enough, Miyagi dribbled just past half-court. Taku Itu immediately bit Miyagi like a mad dog, defending Miyagi closely, ready to steal the ball. Miyagi felt a little emotional in his heart. It was only after playing that I felt that the height of the Shoyo team is really not covered. A cold light flashed in Miyagi's eyes. But is that all you want to stop me? Impossible. Taku Itu looked at Miyagi in front of him and said mockingly, I've heard about the speed of Shohoku's point guard for a long time, and I'm here to see it today. The corners of Miyagi's mouth turned up slightly. As you can see, the voice just fell. Miyagi immediately began to exert force, like lightning. Before Taku Itu could even react to come back, Miyagi had already sprinted past his right hand. So fast, Taku Itu hurriedly turned around and chased after him. As expected of Miyagi Ryota, it's really lightning fast. It's too fast, this little man. This is the shortcoming of being too tall, and there is no way to defend against such a flexible little man. Shohoku fans started cheering for Miyagi excitedly. Miyagi stands near the three-point line at the top of the key. There was no one in front of him, but Miyagi didn't choose to shoot directly. His three-pointer has just begun to practice, and the hit rate is not guaranteed. Seeing Taku Itu behind him immediately catch up and defend in place. Without hesitation, Miyagi flicked his small hand and passed the ball directly to Tatsuhiko at a 45-degree angle. Nagamano immediately defended Tatsuhiko. Boy, I won't let you score easily. We are Shoyo. Shoyo? So what? Tatsuhiko said calmly. No matter who you are, you can't guard against me. Tatsuhiko went straight to the super start, a very fast crotch misleading change of direction,